Chapter 862. Kakashi was surprised by the wooden stakes that broke out of the ground. He was surprised by the timing of Nagato's ninjutsu, and he was also surprised that Nagato could use the first generation's famous stunt so skillfully. Before Kakashi could have more thoughts, he felt that his chakra was quickly being absorbed by the wood release that was entangled around him. Oh no! After muttering to himself, Kakashi once again launched the Flying Thunder God technique, forcibly got rid of the wood release, and flashed to the side of the Flying Thunder God kunai that he had deliberately left in the forest. At this time, the wooden stake dexterously sent Naruto all the way to Nagato. Nagato glanced at Naruto lightly, and then casually cast a sealing technique on Naruto's back, sealing the Flying Thunder God technique that Kakashi had left behind. Seeing this scene, Kakashi's face became more and more gloomy as he panted heavily. Although this side of the fight was short, he first used half of the chakra to cast the Thunder Release Doppelganger and Rachel, and then continuously cast the Flying Thunder God technique, Burrow, Dog Head, Earth Flow Wall, and other ninjutsu. Coupled with the large amount of chakra that was absorbed by Nagato's wood release. So at this time, his remaining chakra was barely enough for him to teleport back to Mai, but not enough to teleport back to Mai with Naruto. Because of the super long-distance, Flying Thunder God technique, the consumption of chakra was very large. What's more, Naruto's Flying Thunder God technique had been sealed by Nagato, and he had lost his coordinates. Forget about rescuing Naruto from Nagato's hands. If he were to be entangled for a while longer, he might not be able to escape. Considering that the rebellion of the Uchiha clan in the village had not been quelled yet, he could not make an unnecessary sacrifice here. For this reason, Kakashi did not say any unnecessary nonsense and directly activated the Flying Thunder God method to escape from the scene. Nagato, who hadn't moved a single step since the beginning, picked up the unconscious Naruto and said to Minami, "Let's go." Lil Nan nodded. In my village, on the rooftop of the Naruto building, a few members of the Black Ops were busy tearing the paper that was wrapped around Fu. Meanwhile, the three generations, Jiraiya, as well as Hyojin and Tsunade, who had just rushed back to the village, surrounded a Flying Thunder God kunai that was nailed to the ground with solemn expressions. Swish, suddenly, a piece of paper appeared out of thin air and landed beside the Flying Thunder God kunai. Stepping forward to pick up the piece of paper that suddenly appeared on the ground, Tsunade turned it over and over several times and then asked in confusion, "Why did Kakashi send back a piece of paper?" The expressions of the three generations became even more solemn. Being an experienced man, he knew very well that the longer it took, the worse things were going on Kakashi's side. In other words, the fact that they couldn't rescue Naruto and Fu at the same time indicated that the situation on Kakashi's side was not going to be optimistic. After all, Nagato's strength had been revealed during the battle with Mai last time. Even if the five Kages attacked together, they wouldn't have the slightest chance of winning. Hyojin, who was standing on the side, was also unhappy at this moment. He thought that sending Naruto and Fu to Mount Myaboku would be enough to ensure that nothing would go wrong, but he didn't expect that the Akatsuki organization would use the ultimate spore technique to sneak into Mount Myaboku, wipe out the toads on Mount Myaboku, and kidnap Naruto and Fu at the same time. The Akatsuki organization had attacked Yagura, Naruto, Fu, and Lei Ying at the same time, so he couldn't help but worry about the six-tailed Jinchuriki, Riko Yutaka, who was far away in the water country. But it was obviously too late to send a message now. Whoosh, another whistling sound sounded, but this time it wasn't Naruto who everyone was expecting, but Kakashi, who fell to the ground with a tired face. Jiraiya, who was injured, hurriedly asked, "Where is Naruto?" Kakashi shook his head with a gloomy expression. Sigh. The Hokage-sama sighed deeply. Kakashi is their last hope, and if even Kakashi fails, it means that the village will completely lose the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails, Naruto. But none of the people present, including Hyojin, can blame Kakashi, because it's already very rare for him to be able to snatch Fu from Nagato's hands. Currently, Nagato has both the sage's body and the sage's eyes, which means that he is only one step away from the true six-path shinobi. In everyone's eyes, he is the second strongest person in the shinobi world, second only to the leader of Amatsukami, Yama. In front of Nagato, an ordinary Kage shinobi is like a Mai Genin facing a Jonin. It's very difficult for them to even protect themselves. Kakashi attacked alone, fought 1 against 2, and managed to snatch Fu back. Such a performance has already lived up to his name of 50-50. Hyojin pondered for a moment and asked Kakashi, "You retreated so decisively, it should be because Nagato sealed Naruto's Flying Thunder God Jutsu, right?" "Yeah." Kakashi nodded with a depressed expression. It's hard for him to let go of the fact that he couldn't protect Sensei's son. After getting an affirmative answer from Kakashi, Hyojin supported his chin with one hand and thought. Once the Flying Thunder God Jutsu is engraved on the body, it's actually extremely difficult to remove, and ordinary people don't have the ability to do so. When Hyojin helped Kuroto remove the Flying Thunder God Jutsu left on Kuroto's body, he used the Wind Release Clone. It must be known that the chakra of Hyojin's Wind Release Clone contains a certain characteristic of mutual kill gray bones, which means that it is the most destructive technique known in the shinobi world. Even so, it took Suijin a full hour to remove the Flying Thunder God Jutsu that was left on Kuroto's body by the second-generation Earth physique. From this, it can be seen how stubborn the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, which can be used as coordinates between space and time, is. Therefore, even if Nagato, who has the Rinnegan, has the ability to destroy the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, it's not something that can be done in a short time, and at this moment, Nagato has already sealed the Flying Thunder God Jutsu on Naruto's body, so he won't try to remove the Flying Thunder God Jutsu from Naruto's body in a short time. And this gives Hyojin a chance, even if the chance is somewhat slim. After making up his mind, Hyojin turned around and ordered Kakashi in an indisputable tone, "From now on, you will constantly try to sense the Flying Thunder God Jutsu on Naruto's body, and once the seal is removed, you will immediately take action." Kakashi was puzzled and asked, "Kuroto, what are you going to do?" After listening to Hyojin's words, not only Kakashi, but also the 3 generations, Jiraiya, Tsunade, and the others were also puzzled. Hyojin, who was wearing the robe of Naruto, jumped and disappeared into the night, leaving only a sentence, "There is still a chance." First, I sincerely ask for recommendation votes and monthly vote. Thank you, everyone. Chapter 863. In the forest filled with the chirping of insects and birds, 2 figures, one in front and one behind, flashed past. Under the cold moonlight like 2 ghostly phantoms, incredibly fast. The 2 figures in front and behind are naturally Hyuga Aoki, who is running in panic, and Hyojin, who is following him. Perhaps the soul trauma caused by Tsukuyami is too serious. Hyuga Aoki didn't slow down at this moment, completely disregarding the consumption of chakra. The speed of his puppet was not slow to begin with. Coupled with the fact that he was continuously casting rain manipulation and the blink tactic, he only needed to tap his feet lightly on the ground and he would be able to leap almost 100 meters away in an instant. With just a few ups and downs between breaths, he can cross a mountain and pass through a forest. His speed is so fast that it even surpasses the communication eagle that my specially domesticated, reaching the extreme speed of a ninja on the ground. If it were an ordinary person, they really wouldn't have the ability to track Hyuga Aoki at this speed. However, Hyojin is obviously not an ordinary person, but even with the speed of Hyojin, it is very difficult to track him without entering the Tenseigan chakra mode. After all, Hyojin doesn't have a giant Tenseigan supporting him, unlike Hyuga Aoki, who has a huge Tenseigan chakra that can be squandered at will. Fortunately, in this state, Hyuga Aoki can't restrain the chakra fluctuations on his body. Therefore, at this time, the Tenseigan chakra on Hyuga Aoki is like a torch in the night in the eyes of Hyojin, so conspicuous that he doesn't have to worry about losing it at all. Swish, Hyojin's figure swayed and fell on the branch of a big tree. Immediately afterward, while panting, he looked at Hyuga Aoki, who was still running in the distance, and spat lightly. "Tsk, this guy can really run." According to the direction of Hyuga Aoki's escape, Hyojin can roughly judge that Hyuga Aoki's hiding place should be in the land of grass or the land of rain. After pondering for a while, Hyojin realized that these two small countries were indeed good places to hide. There are Kusanagi villages in the land of grass, and they are also Mai's allies on the surface, so there is order in the country, and the major shinobi villages will restrain themselves when they act here. The land of rain is the former base of the Akatsuki, and after the Akatsuki abandoned it, it was temporarily taken over by the 5 great shinobi villages. Whether it is the Akatsuki or the 5 great shinobi villages, the land of rain is a dark area. After resting for a while, Hyojin continued to chase after them. At this speed, the two of them would be able to leave the country of fire and enter the country of grass or country of rain before daybreak. As for whether Hyojin Aoki is aware of his tracking or not, Hyojin doesn't care anymore. Hyojin is using an overt scheme this time. As long as Kuroto Aoki is hit by Tsukuyumi and his spirit body is injured, he must immediately rush back to the main body to recuperate. Even if Kuroto Aoki notices that someone is following him, he can't afford to waste time dealing with the stalker behind him. Pitter-patter-patter, unknowingly, the sky began to drizzle. Sure enough, it is in the country of rain, Kuroto, who was still in the middle of tracking, muttered. As he had expected before, Kuroto Aoki's hiding place is either in the country of grass or in the country of rain, and the light rain falling from the sky at this moment undoubtedly means that he has stepped into the country of rain, where it rains for 80% of the year. Tracking in the rain is undoubtedly more difficult. Fortunately, it didn't take long for Hyojin to follow Kuroto Aoki to come to a remote and inconspicuous small cave. Is this the place? After confirming from a distance that Kuroto Aoki hurriedly entered the cave, Hyojin pondered for a moment, then his figure flickered and followed. But when he was about to step into the cave, there was a sudden sharp whistling sound in the cave, and then one figure after another jumped out of the cave and surrounded him at the entrance of the cave. Puppets. Hyojin's eyes glanced at these figures and found that they were all the same as his 3 generations Kazekage puppets, which were activated by the high-intensity Tenseigan chakra and had a little self-consciousness. There were more than 20 of them. And on these puppets, Hyojin also keenly found the mark of Scorpio red sand, indicating that these puppets were all the work of the puppet master Sasori. Forbidden to enter. Forbidden to enter. Forbidden to enter. At this time, the puppets surrounding Hyojin issued a warning at the same time, and these warnings were reflected by the cave, producing layers of echoes. If it was an ordinary ninja, surrounded by these puppets who could speak, I am afraid that they would have been frightened, but Hyojin was not surprised. He pulled out the Kusanagi pill from his waist, and said with a smile, "What if I insist on going in? Die. Die. Die." More than 20 puppets spoke at the same time, and their voices were layered. "Hey, it's really impersonal." After a chuckle, Hyojin waved his sword and said, "Then what are you waiting for? Come and kill me." Swish. After saying that, Hyojin's figure flashed and he attacked the cave, and when he passed by the 2 puppets in front of him, he cut them in half with the Kusanagi pill. Without hesitation and fear, the remaining puppets immediately chased after Hyojin and fought fiercely in the narrow and dark cave. Clang, clang, clang. The sharp and harsh sound of metal collision echoed continuously in the cave, occasionally accompanied by the roar of 1 or 2 explosions. Obviously, these puppets supported by the giant Tenseigan can cast chakra energy balls like Otsutsuki Samurai's puppet army. The power of this kind of chakra energy ball is only slightly inferior to Rasengan, and it can be released from a distance, so the degree of threat is extremely high. When Naruto, who had just finished the Fourth Shinobi War in the original timeline, suddenly encountered this kind of puppet army, it took him a lot of effort to deal with it, and at that time, Naruto was already a weak six-path shinobi. The sound of metal collision and roar extended all the way to the depths of the cave, and not long after, these sounds gradually subsided, and only the sound of gentle footsteps could be heard in the entire cave. Turning a corner, Hyojin inserted the Kusanagi pill in his hand into the scabbard on his waist, and stepped into the hall located in the deepest part of the cave. And in this artificially excavated hall, Hyojin Aoki stood quietly in front of a giant eyeball-shaped sphere that was emitting a bright light. His tired face didn't show any surprise because of the intruder. On the contrary, the corners of his mouth were slightly raised, and he said to Hyojin, who was walking slowly into the hall in a playful tone, "So it's you. Here's the second update, asking for recommendation votes and monthly votes. In addition, I'm very grateful to the reader today at 7:13 for the large reward and becoming the fourth leader of this book. It's really expensive." Chapter 864. Along the way, I have been thinking about who is colluding with the Uchiha clan to plot against me. I have guessed many people, but I never thought that this person would be you, Hyojin. When he said the last three words Hyojin Aoki's tone immediately became cold. While observing Hyojin Aoki, Hyojin said flatly, "You instigated the Uchiha clan to rebel, and I, as Naruto, arrest you as a matter of course." Through observation, Kuroda found that the fatigue on Hyojin Aoki's face was not fake. This shows that Itachi's previous Tsukuyomi has indeed caused great damage to Hyojin Aoki's spirit body, but judging from Hyojin Aoki's performance at the moment, Hyojin Aoki's spirit body is obviously not weak enough to return to the main body immediately. Hearing Hyojin mention Naruto, Hyojin Aoki's gaze fell on the Naruto Haori robe that Hyojin was wearing. "Humph, I have always been very accurate in judging people, but I didn't expect that I would make a mistake on you, a guard dog." After a light snort, Hyojin Aoki continued, "You have hidden yourself so deeply. Not only did you take advantage of the conflict between the village and the Uchiha clan to successfully become the fifth leader, but you also secretly colluded with the young patriarch of the Uchiha clan who has the Manjikyu Sharingan." As he spoke, Hyojin Aoki's expression became distorted. Breaking the shackles of the fate of the branch family and becoming the Naruto of the village has always been the greatest desire hidden in his heart, and after obtaining the giant Tenseigan, he firmly believed that he would eventually achieve all this. But he did not expect that Hyojin, who was also a branch family member, would take the position of Naruto by accident, which made him feel extremely indignant, as if Hyojin had taken something away from him. What angered him even more was that Hyojin had successfully plotted against him. Yes, what annoyed Kuroda Aoki is not that Hyojin wanted to plot against him, but that Hyojin, who is not even worth mentioning in his eyes, actually succeeded. This feeling of being offended by an ant made him feel a little embarrassed. After confirming Kuroda Aoki's current state, Hyojin didn't talk any more nonsense, but turned his attention to the giant Tenseigan on the side. Similar to his impression, this giant Tenseigan exudes a strong Tenseigan chakra, and its whole body shines with a bright star-like light. In its core area there is also a dazzling six-pointed star spot, which not only looks full of power, but also gives people a feeling of incomparable holiness. It's just that for some reason, Hyojin has a vague feeling that the state of the giant Tenseigan in front of him doesn't seem to be right. Seeing Hyojin staring at the giant Tenseigan beside him, Kuroda Aoki smiled. "Have you noticed? The reason why you colluded with Itachi Uchiha to plot against me should be to know how I got rid of the cage bird curse seal, right?" Hyojin ignored Kuroda Aoki, who was in his own mind, but frowned and carefully perceived the state of the giant Tenseigan. Noticing Hyojin's frown, Kuroda Aoki thought that he had guessed Hyojin's thoughts, and said with a playful expression, "Since you have followed me here, There is no harm in telling you. It is this giant Tenseigan in front of you that helped me break free from the cage bird curse seal, or rather, it is the main body of the cage bird curse seal. Sure enough, Hyojin's face was relieved for a while when he heard this. He has long had various speculations about the relationship between the cage bird curse seal and the giant Tenseigan, because apart from the giant Tenseigan, he really can't think of any other power that can support the main clan to ignore the distance and launch the cage bird curse seal, to kill the members of the branch clan from thousands of miles away. Because not to mention that the Hyuga clan is not good at sealing techniques, even the Uzumaki clan, which specializes in sealing techniques, does not have such an unreasonable sealing technique. Hyojin's reaction made Kuroto Aoki feel that he had regained a little face, and he became even more proud. Do you think I don't know that someone is following me? Idiot, I deliberately lured you out, I just want to see who is plotting against me. Immediately afterward, Kuroto Aoki stroked the giant Tenseigan beside him and said with a smile, "This is the supreme secret treasure of our Hyuga clan, the giant Tenseigan. Ha ha, you must be shocked and confused." The more he said, the more fanatical Kuroto Aoki's expression became. Obviously, Kuroto Aoki fled all the way back to his hiding place, not only because his spirit body was seriously injured and needed to return to the main body to heal, but also because he deliberately used this to lure the snake out of the hole. In his opinion, as long as he gets close to the giant Tenseigan, he can exert 100% of the power of the giant Tenseigan. At that time, no matter who is hiding behind the scenes and plotting against him, he has the confidence to kill them. It is precisely because of this that he proudly told everything to Hyojin, because Hyojin, the person who plotted against him and knew his secret, has long been regarded as a dead man by him. Hyojin's expression was calm, and there was no ripple in his eyes. You are quite calm, but in front of this giant Tenseigan, your so-called Naruto is just a vulnerable ant. As Kuroto Aoki said, he extracted the chakra on the giant Tenseigan and grinned. I hope you can still maintain this expression later, don't let me down. After being instilled with the chakra on the giant Tenseigan, Kuroto Aoki's body was instantly filled with a huge amount of chakra fluctuations. Under his influence, the air in the hall seemed to become dense, as if it had weight, and some of the gravel on the ground floated up under the action of the huge distortion force. Standing beside the giant Tenseigan, Kuroto Aoki laughed wildly and said, "Ha ha ha, do you see this? This is my power. I am the savior of the Hyuga clan, the god who dominates the shinobi world. Kneel in front of me and cry. Repent. Maybe I will spare your life." Suddenly, Kuroto Aoki's laughter stopped abruptly. Immediately afterward, Kuroto Aoki opened his mouth wide and looked at Hyojin in amazement, looking at the pair of bright eyes in Hyojin's eye sockets, and wondered, Your eyes?" Hyojin, who had opened the Tenseigan, ignored the crazy Kuroto Aoki, and instantly seized the control of the giant Tenseigan in front of him and cut off the connection between the giant Tenseigan and Kuroto Aoki. In terms of authority, Hyojin, who is of the same clan, has the highest authority in the entire shinobi world. As long as he gets close to the giant Tenseigan of the Hyuga clan, he can directly control the giant Tenseigan without Kuroto Aoki. At this time, Hyojin moved his gaze to Kuroto Aoki and said lightly, "By the way, what did you just say?" "Thank you again to the leader today at 7:13, and all the students who tipped yesterday. Thank you everyone. It's late October, please support the students who have monthly votes." Chapter 865. This is impossible, this is absolutely impossible. Kuroto Aoki looked at Hyojin in a daze while muttering to himself. Just now, he felt that the connection between him and the giant Tenseigan was completely cut off. At the same time, the Tenseigan chakra that filled his body was also pulled out in an instant. And without the support of the Tenseigan chakra, exhaustion and weakness surged, making it difficult for him to resist for a while, his whole body staggered a few steps and almost fell to the ground. Fortunately, he has mastered the spiritualization technique. Otherwise, without the soul descent technique provided by the giant Tenseigan, the spirit body he controlled at this moment will collapse instantly. At this time, Hyojin slowly walked towards the giant Tenseigan. Huff! Huff! Kuroto Aoki, who was panting heavily, looked at Hyojin who was walking towards him, and his expression became more and more shocked. At this moment, Kuroto inexplicably felt a resonating sound similar to the beating of his heart. This is a kind of resonance at the soul level, and the two parties that are resonating are undoubtedly the giant Tenseigan beside him and Suijin, who is walking towards him. What did you do? What the hell did you do? Realizing that his giant Tenseigan was about to belong to someone else, Kuroto Aoki became hysterical. For him, this giant Tenseigan next to him is his everything. It is the foundation for him to change his fate and create a better future. If he loses the giant Tenseigan, then his life will be meaningless. So, in a hurry, Kuroto Aoki hurriedly chanted the spell to control the giant Tenseigan, and then pointed to the giant Tenseigan on the side and shouted, "Seal!" However, no matter how he chanted the incantation that could easily control the giant Tenseigan in the past is completely ineffective at this time. He is clearly within reach, but the giant Tenseigan just turned a deaf ear to him and did not respond at all. "Get out of here!" Hyojin, who was walking towards the giant Tenseigan, waved his hand gently. Hua, a repulsive force, instantly attacked Hyuga Aoki, who was standing next to the giant Tenseigan, sending him flying out and crashing into a corner of the hall. This is the ability of the giant Tenseigan? Kuroto Aoki, who was thrown out, was startled at first, and then immediately shouted, Why can you use the ability of the Tenseigan?" Hyojin's footsteps did not stop as he calmly said, "Why? Isn't it obvious because I also have the Tenseigan?" "Your eyes are Tenseigan?" As if struck by lightning, Hyuga Aoki was completely stunned. Glancing at Kuroto Aoki in the corner, Hyojin said, "More than 10 years ago, when I was about 14 or 15 years old, I awakened the Tenseigan. The time when Hyojin awakened Tenseigan happened to be the Nine Tails Rebellion, which is the month when Naruto was born. Now Naruto is more than 10 years old, so it has been more than 10 years since he awakened Tenseigan. With your own ability, you awakened Tenseigan at the age of 14 or 15? After listening to Hyojin's narration, Kuroto Aoki felt even more incredible. Kuroto Aoki has rummaged through the ancient books in the secret vault of the Hyuga clan, and it is clear that in the history of the Hyuga clan for nearly 1,000 years, there has never been a precedent of an individual awakening the Tenseigan. So to this day, including the Hyuga clan does not know that Byakugan, like Uchiha Sharingan, can also be further evolved. Hyojin chuckled and said, "With your own ability? Oh, that's right." At that time, he was implicated by the defection of Orochimaru, and he was already abandoned by the village, so injecting the gene solution without any verification was his only chance. So he was able to awaken the Tenseigan, and because of this, in the next few years, his Tenseigan has been in the development period. Kuroto Aoki was puzzled. Then why did you halfway through? Kuroto Aoki didn't know what to say. "What you want to say is why I didn't jump out and dominate the shinobi world like you." With a contemptuous smile, Hyojin said indifferently, "In the shinobi world, I am not the only one who has the Tenseigan, not to mention that there is also the Rinnegan, the reincarnation of Otsutsuki Azura and Indra, and the Sage of the Six Paths who has been watching the shinobi world but doesn't care much about it. And above the Sage of the Six Paths, there is the stronger Kaguya, who is the Kekii Net, and the Otsutsuki clan, who are constantly plundering the energy of the planets in the void. The Tenseigan is just the starting point of touching the Six Paths level." Listening to Hyojin's explanation, Kuroto Aoki was stunned. It was not until this moment that he realized that he didn't really see the shinobi world clearly. Hyojin continued, Your stupidity is not only because of your narrow vision, but also because you can't suppress your hatred and desire to think and judge rationally. Think about it, if a giant Tenseigan can dominate the shinobi world, then why did the ancestors of the Hyuga clan seal it? You haven't even considered this point carefully, and you think that you can control the shinobi world with just a giant Tenseigan. Losing to me is already the most decent ending for you. Suddenly, a terrible idea flashed in Kuroda Aoki's mind, and then the more he thought about it, the more terrified he was, so he pointed his trembling hand at Hyojin and said, You are the Yama. Before this, Kuroda Aoki has always firmly believed that the Yama of Amatsukami is the Otsutsuki of the moon, because in his opinion, only the Otsutsuki of the moon is worthy of the title of the strongest ninja in the shinobi world. But when he learned that Hyojin had awakened the Tenseigan as early as 10 years ago, and then thinking about the relationship between Hyojin, Uchiha Jishue, and Itachi Uchiha, as well as the many Homusubi of Amatsukami who possess the Manjikyu Sharingan, Kuroda Aoki realized that the person in front of him is probably the strongest ninja in the shinobi world, the leader of Amatsukami Yama. The corner of Hyojin's mouth rose and he smiled, occasionally. Yama is just one of the many identities of Hyojin, so Yama is Hyojin, but Hyojin is not completely Yama. After learning all this, Kuroda Aoki's face turned ashen. At this time, he really understood what kind of monster he is facing. Hyojin, who is also a member of the Hyuga clan, not only controls the strongest mysterious organization in the shinobi world Amatsukami, but also became the 5th Naruto of my village, which is the leader of the 5 great shinobi villages. To exaggerate a little, Hyojin can even be said to be the uncrowned king of the shinobi world. Here is the first chapter, asking for recommendation votes, monthly votes. Chapter 866. Glancing at Kuroda Aoki in the corner, Hyojin didn't say anything more. He has found that Kuroda Aoki's disabled body is hiding in a secret room next door, which is only a dozen meters away from this hall. But for Kuroda Aoki, who has lost the support of the giant Tenseigan, this distance of more than 10 meters is like an insurmountable chasm. Because Kuroda Aoki's spirit body is so fragile that he can't leave the puppet he is now. Once he leaves the protection of the puppet, his spirit body will collapse instantly. And he is now so weak that he can't move. Unless someone moves his body in front of him, otherwise, even if Hyojin in the hall doesn't do anything, he won't be able to hold on for long. This is also the reason why Hyojin didn't pretend to hide in front of him. Because the death of the spirit body is different from the normal death. The death of the spirit body is the same as the spirit body being completely decomposed by the truth-seeking ball. It is a complete death. Even the forbidden technique like Edo Tensei, that distorts the boundary between life and death, can't communicate with the spirit. Walking slowly to the giant Tenseigan, Hyojin reached out and touched it gently while whispering, I didn't expect it to be so small. This is indeed the first feeling that appeared in Hyojin's mind after seeing the giant Tenseigan of the Hyuga clan. Because the giant Tenseigan in his impression is based on the one of the Otsutsuki clan on the moon, and he remembers very clearly that in the original space and time, Naruto and Hinata jumped high hand in hand. Hinata poured his Byakugan chakra into Naruto's Rasengan, and with the destructive power of almost the 6th level, he was able to break the giant Tenseigan of the Otsutsuki clan. From that scene, it can be clearly judged that the giant Tenseigan on the moon is 6 or 7 stories high, and it is a giant eyeball with a diameter of tens of meters. But the giant Tenseigan of the Hyuga clan in front of Hyojin is only as tall as 2 people and about 3 or 4 meters in diameter. In the most intuitive size, it is completely different from the giant Tenseigan on the moon. However, when Hyojin thought about it carefully, it seemed to make sense. After all, the giant Tenseigan on the moon is a fusion of almost all the Byakugan descendants left on the moon by Otsutsuki Himura. The number of Byakugan is probably already in the thousands. The giant Tenseigan in front of Hyojin is just a fusion of hundreds of Byakugan of the Hyuga clan. In terms of the number of Byakugan, the two sides are not on the same level. Hyojin also vaguely remembered that the souls of the Otsutsuki family on the moon in the original spacetime had revealed to Hinata the process of the Otsutsuki family's rebellion. One of the scenes is the Otsutsuki branch using the giant Tenseigan to destroy the Otsutsuki branch. From the fragments, it can be seen that the giant Tenseigan of the Otsutsuki branch was only 3 or 4 meters in diameter at first, which is about the same size as the giant Tenseigan of the Hyuga clan. The reason why the giant Tenseigan of the Otsutsuki clan became so big later was mostly because the Otsutsuki people on the moon would offer their Byakugan to the giant Tenseigan before they died. Such a person, generation after generation, after hundreds of years, the number of Byakugan of the giant Tenseigan of the Otsutsuki clan fused with more and more Byakugan, and its size naturally became bigger and bigger. However, the Byakugan offered by the Otsutsuki clan not only contains Byakugan chakra but also part of their own soul power. After hundreds of years, their population naturally became smaller and smaller. Because within a certain range, the total amount of chakra does not change. The soul and chakra of the dead are gathered in the giant Tenseigan, so the newborn is naturally congenitally deficient. This should be the reason why the Otsutsuki clan on the moon died out naturally without any foreign enemies, leaving only Otsutsuki samurai. Wow! When Hyojin's hand touched the giant Tenseigan suddenly shone brightly. At the same time, a huge amount of information contained in the giant Tenseigan poured into Hyojin's mind. This information includes not only the various magic of the giant Tenseigan, such as the absorption of chakra, absorption of ninjutsu, absorption of memory balls, and so on, but also the current state of the giant Tenseigan. After understanding this information, Hyojin was both happy and worried. He is happy that after mastering this giant Tenseigan, his tactics are more flexible and changeable. He can almost do everything that Otsutsuki samurai can do. But he is worried that this giant Tenseigan is not in a good state at the moment. After being sealed for hundreds of years, this giant Tenseigan is in an extremely weak state, and after Hyojin Aoki got it, not only did he not find a way to alleviate its weakness, but he also endlessly demanded from it. Especially before, Hyojin Aoki even consumed the tailed beast-level Tenseigan chakra in an instant to open the box of bliss. Such a squandering made the giant Tenseigan even worse. No wonder, Hyojin shook his head gently. He still had some doubts before. Although his authority over the giant Tenseigan is higher than Hyojin Aoki is also a Hyojin, and he has the curse left by the ancestors who made the giant Tenseigan. It stands to reason that even if Hyojin can win this battle for authority, there should at least be a confrontation of authority, instead of being instantly seized by him like before. Now that he understands the state of the giant Tenseigan, he understands everything. Obviously, the giant Tenseigan has long been fed up with Hyuga Aoki, who only knows how to demand things from it, so after the appearance of a higher authority, it didn't hesitate to abandon Hyuga Aoki. After receiving the giant Tenseigan, Hyojin slowly walked towards Hyojin Aoki. At this time, Hyojin Aoki is already in a state of dying. His spirit body is extremely weak. There is no need for Hyojin to do anything at all. He will naturally die in 5 minutes at most. And looking at Hyojin Aoki's eyes that have lost their focus, Hyojin secretly warned himself that he should never be arrogant in the shinobi world, otherwise, he will end up like Hyojin Aoki. Then, Hyojin reached into Hyojin Aoki's spirit body, intercepted a memory orb, and checked the specific information of the cooperation between Hyojin Aoki and the Akatsuki organization. After a while, Hyojin looked surprised. Hyojin Aoki actually told the Akatsuki organization that Amatsukumi's base camp is on the moon? And with this inexplicable information, he cheated so many puppets from Sasori. Is Sasori an idiot? The second update is here, asking for recommendation votes, monthly vote. In addition, I would like to thank the students who tipped me yesterday. Thank you everyone. Chapter 867. Holding Kuroto Aoki's memory orb, Hyojin froze for a while. Only now did Kuroto realize how effective the deterrence tactic he used against the Akatsuki organization was. Kuroto Aoki was able to obtain so many puppet resources from the Akatsuki organization with just a piece of information that couldn't be verified. This shows how important the Akatsuki organization is to Amatsukami. After thinking about it carefully, from the series of hunting operations that Akatsuki launched tonight, it can be seen how much they fear Amatsukami. Obviously, Akatsuki knows that Amatsukami and Mai are likely to be cooperating, and there is a high probability that they are hiding in my village. Therefore, they didn't act rashly, but chose to remain dormant until today, when all the Jinchuriki left my village, did they decisively launch the hunting operation. Tisk, after figuring this out, Hyojin snorted. This time, the Konoha village has undoubtedly overreached itself. Although the Yonkage successfully lured the Uchiha clan to rebel, it also gave the Akatsuki an opportunity to take action. After checking Kuroto Aoki's memory, Hyojin then took the ninja bag from Kuroto Aoki's waist. The pair of Byakugan that Kuroto Aoki took from the elder of the ancestral clan had Itachi's Manjikyu Sharingan sealed in it, so it must be recovered. Moreover, a pair of high-purity Byakugan is also of great research value for Hyojin. A bold idea flashed in his mind, that is, to use this pair of Byakugan, coupled with his own clone, to form a complete test subject, and then carry out the gene injection experiment to see if he can find out the key to awakening the recessive gene and find the key to open the Tenseigan. After collecting this pair of Byakugan, Hyojin found that Kuroto Aoki's spiritual body has completely collapsed, leaving only a puppet that has lost its spirituality in front of him. After pondering for a while, Hyojin came to the secret room where Kuroto Aoki was stored and slowly raised his hand. Rumble, as Hyojin used rain wheel pull to destroy several key support points on the walls of the secret chamber, the entire secret chamber immediately collapsed with a loud noise, and the body of Hyojin Aoki, or rather, his corpse, was completely buried by the collapsed rubble. Then, he used Wheel Rui to tamp down the broken rocks one by one. With a calm tone, Hyojin said, "Since you've chosen this place, then let this be your burial chamber. Anyway, it's just a matter of convenience. There's no need to let Hyuga Aoki's body rot in the secret room and attract snakes, insects, rats, and ants. As for the Byakugan on Hyuga Aoki's corpse, the reason why Hyojin didn't touch it is because when Hyuga Aoki's spirit body collapsed, the caged bird destroyed his incomplete Byakugan. After dealing with Kuroto Aoki's matter, Hyojin once again came to the front of the Tenseigan. The lesson of Hyuga Aoki made him realize that he must treat the Tenseigan in front of him well. Otherwise, if this guy can change sides once, it may change sides a second time. If Hyojin treats it harshly like Hyuga Aoki, then it will be difficult to guarantee its loyalty when facing Otsutsuki samurai in the future. One must know that since the Tenseigan of the Otsutsuki clan on the moon will instinctively help Hyojin, who is from the Hyuga clan, then this Tenseigan of the Hyuga clan is also likely to obey Otsutsuki samurai, who controls the other Tenseigan of the Hyuga clan. Because in terms of bloodline, both sides have the second authority of the other Tenseigan. After all, it is said that there are two clans, but in fact, whether it is the Otsutsuki clan on the moon or the Hyuga clan on the ground, they are all descendants of Byakugan with the bloodline of Himura of Otsutsuki. Kuroto suspects that the origin of the Hyuga clan is likely to be a clan that was sent to the shinobi world by the Otsutsuki clan 1,000 years ago on the moon to collect intelligence, or a clan of several clansmen. Therefore, in terms of bloodline relationship, the Hyuga clan should be closer to the Otsutsuki clan on the moon that has long been extinct. The reason why Otsutsuki samurai, as a descendant of the Otsutsuki clan in the original timeline, sought the high-purity Byakugan of the Hyuga clan is likely to be because of this. Otsutsuki samurai knows that it is necessary to gather the pupil power of both the Otsutsuki clan and the Otsutsuki clan in order to awaken an individual Tenseigan. And the Otsutsuki clan on the moon has long been extinct by the Otsutsuki clan hundreds of years ago, so he can only take a step back and choose the Hyuga clan on the ground that has a bloodline close to the Otsutsuki clan. Seal. After reading Kuroda Aoki's memory, Hyojin knew the incantation to control this giant Tenseigan, so he immediately launched the incantation. Under Suijin's curse, the giant Tenseigan suddenly dimmed, and then the surface of the Tenseigan slowly began to petrify. After a while, the giant Tenseigan turned into a giant stone ball with exquisite six-pointed star nucleus relief engraved on its surface. And with this change, the Tenseigan chakra on the giant Tenseigan was completely restrained, and no trace of it was leaked. Hyojin breathed a sigh of relief. The reason why he temporarily sealed the giant Tenseigan is to facilitate its transfer. This wet cave in the country of rain is obviously not a good place to store the giant Tenseigan. He is going to transfer the giant Tenseigan to his own sky fortress. Because the sky fortress has been moving irregularly on the sea, so as long as the giant Tenseigan is transferred to the sky fortress, even if the giant Tenseigan accidentally resonates with the outside world, its position will not be exposed. Just as Hyojin was thinking about which route to transfer the giant Tenseigan, his shadow clone arrived at the cave. After catching the gourd artifact thrown by the shadow clone, Hyojin immediately released the shadow clone and received all the memories of the shadow clone in the village. After learning that not only the Mizukage and Leiying were targeted by the Akatsuki organization, but even Naruto and Fu, who were sent to Mount Myaboku, were also targeted by the Akatsuki organization, Hyojin couldn't help but smile bitterly. It seems that it's not only the village that made a fool of itself, I also did a stupid thing. He thought that it would be safer to send Naruto and Fu to Mount Myaboku, but he didn't expect that they would be sent to a dangerous place instead. Naruto is the child of prophecy, the reincarnation of Atsuki Azura, so he should be fine, right? As soon as this thought came to mind, Hyojin shook his head. The reincarnation of Atsuki Azura has died countless times, and the so-called child of prophecy was also said by the great Toad Sage, who knows if the Sage of Six Paths will intervene or not. Thinking of this, Hyojin suddenly had an idea, and his eyes fell on the puppet left by Kuroda Aoki. The first update is coming, it's almost the end of the month, I beg for monthly votes, please support me. Chapter 868. My Village, Underground Shelter. The villagers who were curled up with their loved ones were all nervous at the moment. They pricked up their ears and stared at the ceiling of the shelter, carefully listening to the movements on the ground outside. Yukari, who was also listening, said to Kurenai next to her, "Captain, it seems that there is no movement outside." Kurenai said, "Well, it seems that there is really no movement outside." Before, they could still vaguely hear the sound of explosions coming from the ground and feel the slight tremors on the ground and walls in the shelter, but now they can't hear or feel anything. The village seems to have returned to its former tranquility. Yukari, who was anxious, said to the shadow guards who were protecting her, "Why don't we go up?" Yukari has heard about the incident of Satoshi wreaking havoc in the village, and having experienced the last battle that destroyed the village, the destructive power of Satoshi is still fresh in her memory, so when she thought that Hyojin would have to face such a monster, she was flustered. Gale spread his hands helplessly. Naruto-sama specifically told us that without his order, we are not allowed to leave the shelter. Red Bean put her hand on Yukari's shoulder and said softly, "Don't worry, he is now Naruto-sama, there will be no problem." Yukari had no choice but to nod. And turning her face, Red Bean's eyes also flashed with a trace of worry. In fact, not only Yukari, but the 4 shadow guards are also very worried about Hyojin's safety. As the shadow guards of Hyojin Naruto, the four of them have been tied together with Hyojin. They belong to a relationship where they are bound together. Especially Red Bean, Hyojin is also a member of the Orochimaru faction. It can be said that he is the only one in the village who can accept her unconditionally. If something happens to Hyojin, then she will never have the opportunity to be promoted again in this life. At this moment, an Umbu rushed into the shelter and reported to Yukari, "Yukari-sama, Naruto-sama has successfully sealed Satoshi, please don't worry." Great. After listening to the Umbu's report, you let out a long sigh of relief and immediately asked, "Where is Hokage-sama now?" The Umbu was speechless. Red, who sensed that something was wrong, quickly said, "Why are you stuttering? What happened?" The Umbu could only bite the bullet and said, "I'm sorry, we don't know where Naruto-sama went for the time being." Before this, Hyojin had left in a hurry after telling them that there was still a chance. He did not tell the 3 generations where he was going, so the villagers did not know where Hyojin had gone. After the Umbu left, you asked the members of the shadow guards around her, "Did Kuroto go to deal with the Uchiha clan?" Red nodded. "Yes, it's very possible. Patriarch Uchiha's mansion." In the black and white Genjutsu space, the Genjutsu duel between the father and son, Fuyue and Itachi Uchiha, is still going on. In terms of Genjutsu talent, Itachi is undoubtedly better than his father, Fuyue. It can be said that in terms of Genjutsu, Itachi and Jishue are the only ones in the Uchiha clan. Their attainments in Genjutsu far exceed other Uchiha clansmen. In addition, Itachi also successfully transplanted the Hashirama cells and completed the most basic Yin and Yang fusion, which gave birth to the power of Genjutsu that can enhance and supplement the Manjikyu Sharingan's pupil power, so in terms of pupil power, Itachi is also better than Fuyue. However, in order to cooperate with Hyojin's plot against Kuroto Aoki, Itachi consumed nearly half of his pupil power to use Transcription Seal to seal his Manjikyu pupil technique Tsukuyomi on the left eye of the elder, so in this way, Itachi's pupil power is far inferior to Fuyue. However, the lack of pupil power can be made up for with the talent of Genjutsu. In the black and white Genjutsu space of Fuyue, the black and white representing Fuyue's pupil power infects everything around him, but it can't erase the color of Itachi's body, turning it into the same black and white as the surroundings. Obviously, the situation at this time is that Itachi, whose pupil power is insufficient, can't crack Fuyue's pupil technique, and Fuyue can't do anything to Itachi for a while. And the stalemate situation is undoubtedly very advantageous for Itachi, who has transplanted the Hashirama cells. The ocular power that he consumed in the fight could be recovered bit by bit, but the ocular power that his father Fugaku consumed was completely used up. Therefore, the longer the stalemate lasted, the more disadvantageous it would be for Fugaku. Seemingly aware of this, Fuyue said in his own Genjutsu space, "Itachi, I didn't expect your pupil power to be so strong. Trapped in my pupil technique, you can still persist for so long." Itachi looked at the dark black and white sky with some difficulty. "Father, I'm afraid you can't hold on for long, right?" Being seen through by Itachi, Fuyue was silent for a while, and then sighed dejectedly. "Maybe losing to you is the best ending for me." "Father," Itachi opened his mouth, but he didn't know what to say. At this time, Fuyue revealed his figure in the black and white Genjutsu space, and slowly walked to Itachi, and calmly said, "Let's stop here. If we continue to compete, it will be a meaningless loss." Itachi nodded silently. After reaching a tacit understanding, the father and son withdrew their pupil power at the same time and withdrew from the Genjutsu duel. In the hall, Fuyue staggered, took a step back, and barely stood firm. Itachi, on the other hand, knelt directly on the ground and panted violently. In this Genjutsu duel, Itachi was at a disadvantage. Not only did he lose the initiative, but he also fell into his father's kaleidoscope pupil technique. Because he divided his pupil power. His pupil power was insufficient, and he couldn't immediately break free from his father's pupil technique. Therefore, in terms of pupil power consumption, he consumed more than his father Fuyue. Watching the father and son end the genjutsu duel, Uchiha and Mikoto on the side didn't speak, and still sat quietly. After stabilizing his mind, Fugaku listened to what was going on outside. However, what entered his ears were the wails and cries of pain from his clansmen. The sound was so ear-piercing that it made him, the clan leader who advocated for the rebellion, feel so ashamed that he could not show his face. Sigh, I still failed in the end. After sighing, Fuyue asked Itachi, Itachi, after I die, please be sure to protect Sasuke. If the village really can't accommodate you, you can take Sasuke and defect. You already have the Manjikyu Sharingan, and your pupil power is not weak. Even I can't do anything to you for a while, it should be enough to protect yourself. Uchiha and Mikoto also smiled and said, Itachi, Sasuke will be in your care. There is no doubt that Mikoto is ready to die together with her husband. Itachi quickly said, Father, Mother, things haven't reached that point yet. Naruto-sama means that as long as you hand over the Manjikyu Sharingan, tonight's matter can be treated as if it never happened. Here's the second update, asking for recommendation votes and monthly votes. In addition, I would like to thank the students who tipped me yesterday. Thank you everyone. Chapter 869. Hand over the Manjikyu Sharingan? Fuyue sneered, Humph, the village is still coveting our Uchiha clan's Manjikyu Sharingan. Even if I have to destroy my eyes, I will not hand it over to them. Itachi hurriedly explained, Father, you misunderstood. Your Manjikyu Sharingan does not need to be handed over to the village, but I will keep it in secret, and we can claim that it was taken by Amatsukami. Hyojin and Itachi have discussed about Fuyue's Manjikyu Sharingan. In the future, if Sasuke can also awaken the Manjikyu Sharingan, then the three of them will have 3 pairs of Manjikyu Sharingan that can be fused with each other. This also means that if one of them is sacrificed, the 3 of them can fuse a pair of orthodox eternal Manjikyu Sharingan. In the original story, after the Uchiha clan was exterminated, Fuyue's pair of Manjikyu Sharingan disappeared, so Itachi offered his Manjikyu Sharingan so that Sasuke could obtain the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan. Now Fuyue, as the leader of the Uchiha clan's rebellion, will naturally be punished after the failure of the rebellion. Therefore, asking him to offer his Manjikyu Sharingan can not only appease the Naruto clan in the village, but also prepare for the future fusion of the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan. As for whether to give it to Itachi or Sasuke, Hyojin hasn't made a decision yet. However, considering that Sasuke is the reincarnation of Otsutsuki Indra and has the ultimate Yin release chakra in his body, the probability of him evolving the Rinnegan is far higher than that of ordinary people. The reincarnation of Otsutsuki Indra, Uchiha Madara, is the best example, so from this point of view, it is the most cost-effective to let Sasuke fuse with the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan. Hearing that his Manjikyu Sharingan will be kept by his son, Fuyue's expression relaxed a little and asked, Will Amatsukami recognize it? Itachi nodded. Please rest assured, Naruto-sama has already negotiated with Amatsukami. After a while of silence, Fuyue still asked with some worry, Such a big thing, can Fuyue make the decision? Itachi, you have to think about it. Is it possible that this is another trap set by the village? After being cheated by the village several times in a row, Fugaku was already traumatized. He was worried that this was just the village's stalling tactic and that the village would deal with Itachi in the future. Itachi explained, None of the Uchiha clansmen stepped out of the Uchiha clan tonight, so the Uchiha clan did not rebel, but was attacked by Amatsukami. Fugaku's expression froze. This is also part of the 5th Sama's plan? Well, this is all arranged by Naruto-sama. After a pause, Itachi continued. So as long as you hand over the Manjikyu Sharingan and resign from the position of captain of the police force, then the advisory elder group will no longer have a reason to target our Uchiha clan, and your safety and personal freedom will also be guaranteed. Fuyue asked with a complicated expression. Did Fuyue promise you all these? Itachi nodded and said, Well, Naruto-sama personally promised me. Leaving Fuyue alive is indeed Hyojin's intention. First of all, in tonight's riot, if only Fuyue of the 3 Manjikyu of the Uchiha clan died, and Jishuei and Shinichi are safe and sound, then even if Fuyue is the culprit who presided over the rebellion, it will inevitably cause speculation. Second, Fuyue is actually a non-renewable resource, because Sasuke's aptitude is actually worse than Jishuei and Itachi's. In the original spacetime, Sasuke has experienced countless hardships, and he himself has wandered on the edge of life and death countless times, but it was not until he killed his brother Itachi at the age of 16 or 17 that he learned the truth of the Uchiha clan's extermination from Obsidian's mouth that he was able to awaken the Manjikyu Sharingan. Compared with Jishuei and Itachi, who awakened the Manjikyu Sharingan at the age of 11 or 12, he is obviously worse. Awakening the Manjikyu Sharingan is the most critical step for Sasuke to reach the 6th path level. If he is stuck at this step, then he will not be of any use in the future war. Therefore, Hyojin is saving the life of Fuyue, who should have died, and it is also a trump card for Sasuke to awaken the Manjikyu Sharingan in the future. As for whether he can use it or not, it depends on Sasuke's own ability. Because in Hyojin's plan, Xiangyu is his trump card, and Naruto and Sasuke are his other trump cards against future strong enemies. It is very necessary for him to let Naruto and Sasuke grow smoothly. One must know that in today's shinobi world, ninjas who have the aptitude to step into the 6th path level are actually very rare. Many ninjas are born, their upper limit is almost fixed. Even a talented ninja like Orochimaru can't get rid of the natural disadvantage of his bloodline. And in Naruto's generation, only Naruto, Sasuke, Xiangyu, and Otsutsuki Samurai on the moon are currently the most likely to reach the 6th path level. In other words, Naruto and Sasuke are Hyojin's most worthy of investment. If Hyojin wants to have 6th path level subordinates, then he must ensure the growth of Naruto and Sasuke. In the growth of the two, the key step for Naruto is to master Senjutsu, and the key step for Sasuke is to awaken the Manjikyu Sharingan. This key step is the foundation for them to reach the 6th path level, so in this respect, Naruto has actually left Sasuke far behind. And Hyojin prevented Uchiha from exterminating the Uchiha clan, which actually hindered Sasuke from awakening the Manjikyu Sharingan. Therefore, if one person must be sacrificed to stimulate Sasuke to awaken the Manjikyu Sharingan, then sacrificing the Uchiha Fuyue, who should have been executed, is undoubtedly the most appropriate choice. After getting his son's repeated assurance, Fuyue hesitated for a moment, then quickly dug out his pair of Manjikyu Sharingan and handed them to Itachi. Looking at Fuyue's empty and bleeding eyes, Itachi took the Manjikyu Sharingan from his father with tears in his eyes. At this time, Mikoto came over and wiped away the tears on Itachi's face, and said with a gentle smile, "It's already very good that your father and I didn't have to bear the infamy of traitors to survive. From today on, the burden of the family is on you. You can't let others see your weakness." After putting away his father's Manjikyu Sharingan, Itachi knelt down and kowtowed. "Father, mother, please rest assured, I will definitely protect the Uchiha clan." Fuyue, who has lost his eyes, waved his hand and said, "You don't have to stay here, go and clean up the mess. The advisory elder group is not so easy to deal with. I hope that, as you said, the Godame-sama really has the ability to protect our Uchiha clan. I'm asking for recommendation votes, monthly votes." Chapter 870. After leaving the hall, Itachi came to the courtyard, then took out a signal flare from the ninja bag around his waist and shot it into the sky. Whoosh, boom, in an instant, Dazzling sparks bloomed in the deep night. On the long street of the Uchiha clan, Jishui looked up at the brilliant sparks in the night sky and breathed a long sigh of relief. Then her figure flashed and quickly disappeared. On the other side, Shinichi also looked up at the night sky at this moment, identifying the style of the signal flare in the air. After confirming that it was Itachi who released the signal flare, he slowly took off the flame mask on his face and the black gold-edged cloak on his body. The signal flare released by Itachi has a special meaning, that is, the end of the war, the retreat of Amatsukami, outside the Uchiha clan. Because Jiraiya, Asuma, and others have been injured one after another, Kakashi has to constantly sense the Flying Thunder God technique on Naruto's body, and the 3 generations and Zhuan Shao Chun need to be in charge of the Naruto building and the Umbu base respectively, so at this moment, the one leading the Umbu to guard the Uchiha clan is none other than Tsunade and her disciple Mute. After noticing the signal flare that exploded in the night sky, Mute carefully identified it and said, "Sensei, that seems to be the signal flare that Amatsukami has agreed with us." Tsunade asked, "Are you sure?" Mute took out the copy of the signal flare model that Amatsukami entrusted to the village by Hyojin and compared it with several models that represent different meanings, then nodded. "Well, yes, this is the signal flare of Amatsukami. It means that the rebellion of the Uchiha clan has been completely defeated by them, and our people can enter the field to rescue them." Tsunade was a little puzzled. The 3 Manjikyu Sharingan of the Uchiha clan were silently dealt with by Amatsukami? She has no doubt that Amatsukami has the ability to deal with the Uchiha clan, but to be able to deal with the 3 Manjikyu Sharingan of the Uchiha clan so silently is a bit too terrifying. One must know that tonight is the day when the Uchiha clan launches the rebellion, so the Uchiha clan must be fully armed and on high alert. Under such circumstances, the 3 Manjikyu of the Uchiha clan were silently subdued without even having the chance to activate the Susanoo. This kind of thing is appalling just thinking about it. Mute on the side naturally couldn't answer Tsunade's doubts, so she asked weakly, "Sensei, are we going in?" "Of course we are going in. Why would we be afraid of the Uchiha clan? If it was someone else, they might be very cautious, but as a member of the Senju clan, Tsunade Tianran was not afraid of the Uchiha clan, so she immediately led the medical class and the Umbu into the Uchiha clan's land. As soon as they stepped into the Uchiha clan's land, a pungent smell of blood hit their nostrils. Tsunade frowned, and was surprised to find that the long street of the Uchiha clan's land was full of Uchiha clansmen groaning in pain. The whole street was covered with blood, and everywhere she looked was eye-catching scarlet. Seeing Tsunade suddenly leading a large number of Umbu to break in, the Uchiha clansmen on the ground who had not yet passed out were extremely nervous. With a guilty conscience, they were afraid that the village came to take the opportunity to destroy the Uchiha clan. Some of them even wanted to get up and fight with the Umbu who broke in. However, when Jishui made her move, she deliberately picked the joints of their bodies and disintegrated their ability to move one by one, so no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't stand up, let alone resist. Feeling the hostile eyes of the Uchiha clansmen around them, the Umbu also became alert. They didn't know how much combat power the Uchiha clansmen on the ground had left, so they didn't dare to be careless. In this oppressive atmosphere, Tsunade waved her hand and shouted, "Save them!" With Tsunade's order, the ninjas of the medical class immediately carried out emergency treatment for the injured Uchiha clansmen on the ground, and they all ignored the fully armed clothes of the Uchiha clansmen. While the injured Uchiha clansmen breathed a sigh of relief, they all felt inexplicably ashamed. At this time, Tsunade came to a slightly injured Uchiha clansman and asked, "Where is your patriarch? And also Uchiha Jishui, Uchiha Shinichi?" The situation of the 3 Manjikyu of the Uchiha clan is the most concerned about in the village, because the combat power of the 3 of them is stronger than that of the rest of the Uchiha clan, so only by confirming the situation of the 3 of them can they judge whether the rebellion has really subsided or not. The Uchiha clansman shook his head and said with a puzzled look, "I don't know, since the attack until now, they haven't appeared." Even at this moment, the Uchiha clansmen don't suspect that the murderers are Jishuei and Shinichi. First, they know that there are indeed 2 Uchiha clansmen in Amatsukami who possess Manjikyu Sharingan, and their Susanoo is golden and red respectively, while Jishuei and Shinichi's Susanoo is emerald and dark green respectively. This point alone eliminates the suspicion of Jishuei and Shinichi. Secondly, Patriarch Fuya also didn't appear during the attack, so if there are any suspects then all 3 of them, including Patriarch Fuya, are suspects. The answer of the Uchiha clansman surprised Tsunade. She was startled for a moment, and then immediately looked at the Patriarch's house not far away. Soon, the injured of the Uchiha clansmen were sent to the Mai Hospital by the medical team. Because of Satoshi's rampage in the village, the Mai Hospital is already overcrowded and chaotic, so when the injured of the Uchiha clan were sent to the hospital, not only did they not attract the attention of the ordinary villagers, but because of the lack of wards, many of the injured of the Uchiha clan were directly placed in the hall. At the same time, the Umbu led by Asuma were also placed in the hall. Because of the accidental encounter with Hyuga Aoki outside the wall, Asuma and the dozens of Umbu led by him all suffered varying degrees of burns and lightning strikes. When they were sent to the hospital, because there were not enough wards, they were directly placed in the hall after their wounds were treated. Asuma, who was covered in bandages from head to toe, had a cigarette in his mouth. He touched his pocket, but found that he didn't know where he dropped the lighter during the battle, so he turned around and gently nudged a wounded person next to him with his arm and asked, "Brother, do you have a lighter?" Uchiha Shinji, who was also wrapped in bandages like a mummy, took out a lighter and handed it over. When they exchanged the lighter, both sides recognized each other. Asuma was embarrassed. He didn't expect that the person lying next to him was a member of the Uchiha clan, so he had to take the lighter while trying to find a topic. "What happened to you?" Uchiha Shinji said, "I was attacked by a madman. What about you?" Asuma curled his lips. "I met a madman." Here's the second update, asking for recommendation votes and monthly votes. In addition, I would like to thank the students who tipped me yesterday. Thank you everyone. Chapter 871. After lighting the cigarette in his mouth, Asuma silently observed the hospital hall and found that there were a lot of injured Umbu and injured Uchiha clansmen chatting with each other. Perhaps because of their tragic situation, they put down some of the dignity they usually carry, plus the murderer is someone else, so the atmosphere between the two sides is harmonious. However, for Asuma, who knows the inside story tonight, the scene in front of him really makes him a little uncomfortable. It must be known that if Amatsukami didn't intervene tonight, then the two sides who are chatting together at this moment are likely to be mortal enemies on the battlefield. At the same time, Asuma also keenly discovered that the villagers coming and going to the hospital, as well as the medical staff inside the hospital, did not treat the injured Uchiha clansmen differently, nor did they look at them strangely. It can be seen that except for the village's top officials and the Umbu who are directly involved in the security, the villagers and the majority of ordinary Mai ninjas don't know about the Uchiha clan's rebellion. I didn't expect Kuroto's arrangement to actually be realized. This may be the best ending. Smoking the cigarette, Asuma secretly sighed in his heart. The rebellion of the village's most powerful family can end in such a situation, and the influence of the rebellion is even limited to the Uchiha clan and the Umbu. This is obviously far beyond Asuma's expectations. On the roof of the Naruto building, Tsunade, who returned from the Uchiha clan's land, reported to 3 generations. When I led the Umbu into the Uchiha clan's land, the Uchiha clan's rebels have already been subdued by Amatsukami, so I arranged for the medical team to send the injured of the Uchiha clan to the hospital. 3 generations asked in a deep voice, "What about the casualties of the Uchiha clan?" After the medical team confirmed that most of the Uchiha ninjas were only disabled, only 7 people were confirmed dead. This is the list of the dead. With that, Tsunade handed a list to 3 generations. Only 7 people died? The slightly puzzled 3 generations took the name list and glanced at it, then immediately frowned. On the death list were Uchiha Yusuke, Uchiha Hikaru, Uchiha Kiwa, and so on. Without exception, all of them were well-known radicals in the Uchiha clan. They were also the backbone of the Uchiha clan's rebel forces. 3 generations had thought that Amatsukumi's organization would attack indiscriminately, causing a large number of deaths in the Uchiha clan. He did not expect that Amatsukumi's organization would discriminate and target the culprits one by one. This aroused his suspicion. After a moment of silence, 3 generations asked, "Have we ever made a similar request to Amatsukumi?" Tsunade shook her head. "I don't think so, but it's hard to say whether Kuroda has made a similar request to Amatsukumi in private, otherwise, Amatsukumi wouldn't be so considerate." 3 generations thought about it and felt that Tsunade's guess was reasonable. This request to eliminate the Uchiha clan's radicals was most likely made by Hyojin, the 5th Naruto, to Amatsukumi. Putting the death list aside, 3 generations asked again, "So, the 3 Uchiha clan's Manjikyu are still alive? I've seen Uchiha Jishue and Uchiha Shinichi. They suffered minor injuries and are recuperating in their respective homes." After a pause, Tsunade continued, "As for Uchiha Fuyue, although he's still alive, his Manjikyu Sharingan has been taken away by Amatsukumi." 3 generations' eyes suddenly turned cold. "Amatsukumi has taken Fuyue's Manjikyu Sharingan?" Tsunade nodded. "Yes, I've been to the Uchiha clan's mansion. Fuyue's Manjikyu Sharingan was indeed taken away, but he didn't seem to have any injuries. According to him, he was defeated in the Genjutsu duel, and Amatsukumi took away his Manjikyu Sharingan." 3 generations muttered to himself. So it was a Genjutsu duel. No wonder, when Sandaime-sama saw the signal flare fired by Amatsukumi from afar, he was quite surprised. At first, he thought that even if Amatsukumi took action, a battle would inevitably break out in the Uchiha clan's land, and there might even be a fierce duel between Susanoo and Susanoo. However, he didn't expect that the commotion in the Uchiha clan's land was not as big as the commotion caused by Satoshi. Now that he learned that it was a Genjutsu duel, he felt a little relieved. Immediately, 3 generations confirmed, "What about Jishue and Shinichi? Did they also lose in the Genjutsu duel?" Tsunade shrugged. "Anyway, that's what they said, and we can't determine whether it's true or not." 3 generations asked again, "Can you determine how many members Amatsukumi sent out?" Hearing this question, Tsunade's face darkened. According to the description of all the Uchiha clan members, Amatsukumi seems to have only sent out 2 Inferno tonight, and we didn't find any traces of other Amatsukumi members in the Uchiha clan's land. Amatsukumi only sent out 2 Inferno, and they subdued the entire Uchiha clan? After a slight pause, 3 generations sighed with emotion. It seems that the 2 Manjikyu Uchiha clan members of Amatsukumi are much stronger than Jishue and Shinichi. 3 generations, who was known as the Doctor of Ninjutsu, basically had no obvious shortcomings. Whether it was ninjutsu, taijutsu, or genjutsu, he dabbled in all of them, and his attainments in them weren't low. Therefore, with his rich experience, he knew very well that the Genjutsu duel between Sharingan was a test of both sides' pupil power, and the 2 Inferno of Amatsukumi were able to defeat the 3 Manjikyu Uchiha clan in a row, and they even had the time to deal with the ordinary Uchiha clan members. So the Uchiha clan that was determined to rebel couldn't even leave the clan's land. This kind of strength really makes one's heart palpitate. After thinking for a long time, 3 generations ordered Tsunade, "The follow-up work will be carried out according to Kage's arrangement. Have the Umbu destroy all evidence that can prove that the Uchiha clan launched a rebellion tonight, and then issue a gag order to all the participants, and announce to the public that the Uchiha clan was attacked by Amatsukumi tonight." "Yes." Tsunade nodded and then asked, "Do we still need to negotiate with Amatsukami about Fuyue's Manjikyu Sharingan?" Three Generations said faintly, "Of course we need to negotiate with them, but since Amatsukami has taken away the Manjikyu Sharingan, I'm afraid it won't be easy for us to get it back from them." The Uchiha clan managed to keep 2 of the 3 pairs of Manjikyu Sharingan, and the one who took away their Sharingan was the Uchiha clan chief, who presided over the rebellion. On the other hand, the relatively gentle Uchiha Jishue and the Uchiha Shinichi, who had a lot of information about the Akatsuki clan, were able to keep their Sharingan, which was a result that was barely acceptable to the village. Moreover, 3 Generations also considered more. Once Amatsukami made such a dazzling move, it would no longer be possible for the Uchiha clan and Amatsukami to work together, and the Uchiha clan would stand firmly on the village's side. I'm asking for recommendation votes and monthly votes. Chapter 872. This time, it could be said that Amatsukami had completely destroyed the pride of the Uchiha clan. Therefore, the 3 Generations were wondering if the village should take advantage of this heaven-sent opportunity when the radical faction within the Uchiha clan was greatly weakened to support the moderate faction within the Uchiha clan, so that the 2 factions within the Uchiha clan could not be united. Once such a situation was formed, the Uchiha clan would no longer have the ability to rebel. At this moment, Tsunade pouted her lips at Kakashi, who was sitting cross-legged not far away. "How is it over there?" The 3 Generations shook their heads gently and sighed. "Sigh, there is no progress so far." Because of the words left behind by Suijin, Kakashi didn't do anything but concentrate on perceiving the Flying Thunder God technique on Naruto's body, waiting for the opportunity mentioned by Suijin. However, after a long time, there was still nothing. Naruto is now in Nagato's hands, and Nagato is also on guard. What can Kuroto do? After a pause, Tsunade said worriedly, "If he tries to force it, I'm afraid he will." Halfway through her words, Tsunade stopped. For some unknown reason, starting from the 4 Generations Naruto, the name of Naruto seemed to be cursed. In just 10 years, Mai had frequently changed Naruto 3 or 4 times, and there were tragedies such as the death of 4 Generations and the betrayal of Danzo. Therefore, Tsunade really did not want Hyojin, the 5th Naruto, to follow the footsteps of 4 Generations Naruto. The 3 Generations, however, said with a hidden meaning, "Don't worry. He is not as simple as you think." Tsunade was stunned and asked, "Sensei, what do you mean by that?" The 3 Generations did not say anything else. He took out a scroll from his arms and handed it to Tsunade. Tsunade opened it and found that the scroll handed over by the 3 Generations was a document that recorded a confidential mission. The mission recorded was the mission that the 4 Generations were ordered to seal the Dragon Vein. Dragon Vein? Tsunade frowned as if she had thought of something. The 3 Generations, with his hands behind his back, said, "What Kuroto summoned on the Naruto Rock was not an ordinary spirit beast, but the Dragon Vein that the Watergate had been ordered to seal." The moment they saw Hyojin summon the Dragon Vein, the 3 Generations felt a sense of familiarity. After all, the shinobi world is not small, but it is not big either. There are only a few kinds of monsters that have tailed beast-class chakra. So, after Satoshi was sealed, the 3 Generations immediately went to the archives and looked through the relevant files. Finally, they confirmed the identity of Hyojin's summon from the 4 Generations mission. After understanding this, Tsunade was surprised. Kuroto was the one who secretly stole the Dragon Vein a few years ago? The theft of the Dragon Vein was a major event in the shinobi world at that time, but during that time, Mai was too busy to investigate this matter. The 3 Generations' eyes were calm. "It's most likely him." After determining that Suijin had summoned the Dragon Vein, Sandaime-sama concluded that Suijin was the one who had secretly stolen the Dragon Vein from the Dragon Vein. Tsunade was a little puzzled, but how did he break the Watergate's Dragon Vein seal? Because he married Uzumaki Kushina, the 4 generations learned a lot of the Uzumaki clan's magical sealing techniques from his wife, including the difficult corpse demon seal. Therefore, although the 4 generations shocked the shinobi world with the flying thunder god technique, he is actually a top sealing technique master in the shinobi world. The seal of the dragon vein, used by Yondaime-sama, not only sealed the dragon vein, but also sealed the other ambitious people in the shinobi world from coveting the dragon vein. Sand Village couldn't break the seal of the dragon vein, so they could only guard the dragon vein anxiously. The 3 generations then told Tsunade about the past. At that time, Mai and Kumogakure were in a border conflict, which could escalate into a war at any time. In order to delay Kumogakure's offensive, 3 generations gave Umbu Team 11 a secret mission, which was to sneak into Kumogakure's territory and destroy Kumogakure's frontline material warehouse. Because of the difficulty of the task, the 3 generations made an exception and allowed the members of Class 11 to apply to the village to learn a high-level ninjutsu. But at that time, Hyojin, who was in Dark Squad 11, applied to the village to learn sealing techniques, and the sealing technique he chose in the secret archive happened to be the 4 symbols seal of the Maelstrom clan. At that time, the 3 generations didn't care too much about it. But now, the 3 generations couldn't help but wonder why Hyojin chose the sealing technique. This isn't possible, right? Tsunade recalled a little and said, I've looked through Hyojin's file, and at that time, he had just been promoted to a Tokubetsu Jonin. With such strength, how could he control the dragon vein? The 3 generations nodded and said, there are indeed a lot of things that don't make sense. I've checked the village's entry and exit records. During the days when the dragon vein was stolen, he was always in the village, and there was no record of him going out. And at that time, he was just a newly promoted Tokubetsu Jonin, so there should be no reason for him to steal the dragon vein, but it's an indisputable fact that the dragon vein is in his hands. Tsunade nodded. No matter how unreasonable it is, as long as the dragon vein is in Hyojin's hands, then the suspicion of Hyojin being the one who stole the dragon vein can't be cleared. So don't think of him as a hothead. This kid is more cunning than we thought. With that, the 3 generations looked at the distant night sky with an expectant look on their faces. Swish, swish, with a burst of whistling sound, the scenery in front of Hyojin's eyes flashed by quickly, and at this time, he understood why Hyoki ran so fast before. The puppet customized by Sasori for Hyojin is very delicate. He doesn't know what material is used, but not only is it strong and light, but it also has characteristics similar to chakra metal. It can conduct chakra like the chakra blade, and through chakra, the puppet's performance is enhanced comprehensively, a bit similar to Lei Ying's thunder release chakra mode. As for the other abilities of the puppet, Hyojin is still exploring them. The reason why he drove the puppet left by Hyojin Aoki to fly through the forest at high speed is to try to rescue Naruto. Because he browsed Hyojin Aoki's memory ball, he not only understood all the contents of the cooperation between Hyojin Aoki and the Akatsuki organization, but also the location of the Akatsuki organization's base. Therefore, he suddenly decided to pretend to be Hyojin Aoki and sneak into the Akatsuki organization to see if he can find a chance to rescue Naruto. After all, Hyojin Aoki usually uses the soul descent technique to control the puppet to contact the Akatsuki organization, so in terms of pretending to be Hyojin Aoki, Hyojin has an advantage that others can't match. Because he used the same technique as Kuroto Aoki, even the chakra on his body is the same Tenseigan chakra as Kuroto Aoki, so the probability of deceiving him is extremely high. And he doesn't need to take Naruto out of the encirclement, as long as he can find a chance to remove the seal that Nagato put on Naruto, and reactivate the Flying Thunder God technique on Naruto, then the rest is Kakashi's task. Here's the second update, asking for recommendation votes, monthly votes. Also, thank you to the students who tipped yesterday. Thank you everyone. Chapter 873. While galloping, Tenseigan left the land of rain and stepped into the neighboring land of grass, while exploring the performance of the puppet. According to Hyuga Aoki's memory, the new base of the Akatsuki organization is in the mountains in the northwest of the land of grass. Of course, because of the previous lessons, Hyuga Aoki knows that the Akatsuki organization has more than one base, so whether he can meet Naruto here or not depends on luck. Shuttling through the country of grass, Hyuga restrained himself a little. After all, the country of grass is a country with ninja villages. Although the strength of the village is not strong, and there is no strong Kage in the village, it will still be troublesome if he is discovered. After a long time, Hyuga finally came to the mountains in the northwest of the country of grass. Hyuga looked up and found that the mountain range in front of him seems to extend to the territory of the country of grass, stretching for thousands of miles, and he can't see the end at a glance. Hiding in this damn place, it's really hard to find. Hyuga curled his lips. At this moment, the sky suddenly lit up with a soft dawn, dispelling the thick night a little bit, bringing light and warmth back to the earth. It's already dawn. After a little sigh, Hyuga no longer delayed and immediately rushed toward the mountains. Roar! Not long after going deep into the mountains, Hyuga heard a roar like a tailed beast. This is? The suspicious Hyuga accelerated his pace and flew in the direction of the roar. After crossing a few hills, Hyuga finally saw the owner of the roar just now. It was none other than Cloud Village's Hachibi's Jinchuriki. At this time, Hachibi, who has completely transformed into a tailed beast, was fighting fiercely with Sasori in the mountains. And in the outer circle of the battlefield, including Obsidian and Zetsu, there are many Akatsuki members, but they all seem to be watching the show and have no intention of joining the battle at all. Because Hyuga was pretending to be Hyoki this time, he didn't conceal his aura, so Obsidian and Zetsu have already noticed him and greeted him from a distance. Why would Chillabai be here alone? With such doubts in his mind, Hyuga quietly arrived beside Obsidian and Ju. When Hyuga came over, the Obsidian asked in a teasing tone, "How was it? Did everything go well? The Hyuga clan wouldn't have been slaughtered by you, right?" Seeing that neither Obsidian nor Zetsu had any doubts, Hyuga breathed a sigh of relief and immediately imitated Kuroda Aoki's tone and replied, "There was a little accident." "The small accident you mentioned should be referring to Mai's fifth-generation Naruto, right?" With a smile, Ju continued, "That fellow of yours doesn't seem to be a simple person. You specially opened the box of bliss to release enlightenment, but it was actually dealt with by him alone." Humph. Hyuga continued to imitate Kuroda Aoki's attitude, snorted lightly, and carefully observed the surroundings. In addition to Obito and Zetsu beside him, as well as Sasori who was fighting against Chillabai, there were also Bipajuzo, Demon Mermaid, Lotus, and Mizu, the Mist's traitorous ninjas. But the target he is supposed to rescue this time, Naruto, is not here, and Kuroda doesn't know if Nagato is still on the way back or has taken Naruto to another base. At this time, Obsidian took over the conversation and said disdainfully, "It's just the dragon vein of the Land of Wind, it's not a big deal." Zetsu laughed and said, "This at least shows that your informant is not as simple as he seems on the surface. The theft of the dragon vein is probably his doing." Obsidian's face sank. He was able to unlock the dragon vein seal of 4 generations. This is indeed a bit beyond my expectations, but the last place is still the last place, and by a fluke he became Naruto. It's not worth paying too much attention to. Hyuga, who was observing the surroundings, couldn't help but glance at Obsidian and said, "Humph," after putting on the skin of Madara Uchiha. "He doesn't even care about his face. Obviously his rank is below me, but he still has the nerve to say that I am the last place." Zetsu said, "He is now Naruto. The little evidence we have in our hands is useless against him. I'm afraid he will no longer admit that he is your informant." Obsidian was silent. In his opinion, when Hyuga became Naruto, he would inevitably come into contact with information related to Amatsukami, so he didn't want to give up the informant Hyojin, but now Hyojin's identity had changed, and he could no longer be easily controlled with a few threats. Thinking of this, Obsidian turned his head and asked Hyojin, who was disguised as Kuroto Aoki, "Didn't you meet him when you went to Mai this time? When he saw that you are not dead, he should believe that you have a way to break the caged bird." Hyojin answered vaguely, "I didn't meet him." "Is that so?" Obsidian didn't care too much, and immediately said with certainty, "As long as you hold this trump card in your hand, that guy Hyojin will definitely surrender to you. Believe me, my judgment will not be wrong." Hyojin snorted, changed the topic and asked, "What's going on? Why is Cloud Village's Hachibi's Jinchuriki here?" "Before, there was laying of 4 generations interfering on the side, so I didn't have time to subdue him. It just so happened that Sasori wanted to use him to practice, so I simply let him out and let Sasori deal with him," Obsidian said very casually. In his eyes, Cloud Village's perfect Jinchuriki was just a small character that could be easily dealt with. Hyojin wanted to take the opportunity to ask about Nagato's whereabouts, but on second thought, such a question was too deliberate, and it might arouse Obsidian's vigilance, so he didn't say anything more, but silently observed the situation in the field. The battle in the field was very fierce. Perhaps because of the failure to capture the Hachibi's Jinchuriki, Sasori vented all his anger of failing the mission on Chalabi. But Chalabi is not a weak person. As long as he doesn't encounter Rinnegan and wood release that are aimed at him, his strength is very strong. Even if Sasori took out the Haruhu puppet that has rapid release, steel release, nether release, mist release, and Sharingan, he couldn't take down Chalabi in a short time. Suddenly, there was a change in the field. In a completely liberated state, the Hachibi swept around with his tail, forcing Sasori and the Haruhu puppet to retreat, and then condensed the jade tail beast without warning, and it was aimed at Obsidian and Hyojin. Seeing the jade tail beast attack, Hyojin's eyes turned cold, and he quickly retreated to the distance. Zetsu's figure also shook, and he shrank into the ground. The masked man didn't try to dodge. He just chuckled and activated his divine might, throwing the jade tail beast, which was powerful enough to flatten a small mountain, into the twisting whirlpool. At this moment, Chalabi in the field unexpectedly removed the tailed beast transformation, returned to his human form, and took advantage of the gap where everyone's attention was attracted by the jade tail beast just now to break out of the encirclement. Coincidentally, the direction he chose to break out of the encirclement was the area where Hyojin, who had just retreated far away from Obsidian, was. The first update is here. It's already the end of the month. There are only 4 or 5 days left in October. Please don't forget to vote. Thank you everyone. Chapter 874. Chilabai is very clear about his current situation. He understands that it is meaningless to continue to fight with Sasori. Even if he can defeat Sasori, other Akatsuki members will enter the battlefield, and without help, he will eventually die. So his only way out is to wait for an opportunity to break out of the encirclement while he is still in good condition. And the Bijou Jade is an excellent cover for him to break out of the encirclement. As long as the Bijou Jade explodes in the mountains, there will be gravel flying and smoke everywhere, and he can take advantage of the chaos to break out. But he never thought that Obsidian would directly absorb his Bijou Jade into the Kamui space, and since he has already released the Bijou Jade, he had no time to launch a second Bijou Jade, so he had to bite the bullet and choose to break out of the encirclement. As for the direction to break out of the encirclement, Chilabai also thought about it. In the outer circle of enemies, the others are all Akatsuki members wearing red cloud suits. Only Hyojin, who is controlling the puppet, is not wearing the red cloud suit, so in order to increase the success rate of breaking out of the encirclement, he pointed his spear at Hyojin. In his opinion, Hyojin, who is not a member of the Akatsuki, must be the weakest one in the outer circle. Hey, don't come at me! Seeing Chillabai rushing towards him, Suijin groaned inwardly. At this moment, whether he lets Chillabai escape or helps him escape, his identity will be exposed and he will lose the opportunity to get close to Naruto. But in order to maintain his identity and rescue Naruto, he must decisively stop Chillabai from breaking out of the encirclement. Whether to save Chillabai or to save Naruto, Hyojin quickly made a choice. He raised his hand towards Chillabai and launched Rain Wheel Pull. Boom! In an instant, a huge repulsive force rushed from all directions towards Chillabai, who was trying to break out of the encirclement. With the repulsive force on his body, Chillabai's expression suddenly stagnated, and with a look of surprise on his face, his whole body was blown back by the repulsive force, and then fell to the ground. Seeing how Hyojin defeated Chillabai's attempt to break out of the encirclement, all the Akatsuki members around him showed a look of fear on their faces. Even Obsidian was no exception. Chillabai, who had fallen to the ground, suddenly raised his head and looked at Hyojin, his face full of disbelief. He didn't expect that Hyojin, the weakest and most inconspicuous of them all, would have an ability similar to Nagato, the leader of Akatsuki. At this time, Suijin put down his arm and imitated Hyuga Aoki's tone, courting death. The reason why Hyojin acted so decisively was not only because he wanted to save Naruto, but more importantly, because Chillabai's chance of breaking out of the encirclement was very slim. Among the Akatsuki members present, Obsidian, Sasori, and Ghost Mermaid all had the ability to fight Chillabai one-on-one. Plus, Sasori's fusion spirit beast was hovering in the air, and there was a Jetsu responsible for tracking him underground. Chillabai had no chance of escaping. If not, Obsidian would not have allowed Scorpion to duel with Chillabai. Swish! At this time, with the sound of breaking wind, a figure fell from the sky and landed steadily on the field, and this figure was none other than Nagato, who was holding Naruto in one hand. Seeing Nagato's sudden appearance, Hyojin was shocked. He didn't notice Nagato's approach at all. At the same time, he secretly rejoiced that he didn't expose his identity because of a moment of soft-heartedness. Controlling a puppet body is really not what I'm good at. Hyojin observed Nagato in the field, while cursing in his heart. For a long time, Hyojin used the soul descent technique to control the clones with flesh and blood. No matter what kind of clone it was, he could quickly adapt and roughly grasp the body data of the clone. Using the soul descent technique to control a puppet body, this was the first time he used the soul descent technique to control a puppet body, plus he was not familiar with this puppet body. He also lacked time to adapt and explore. His vision, hearing, chakra's perception, and other senses were very rusty, so he didn't notice Nagato in advance. And this also made him realize that he couldn't be too optimistic about his own combat power when controlling this puppet body. In the field, Nagato coldly glanced at Chillabai, who fell on the ground, and immediately raised his hand. Countless wooden stakes were pulled out from the ground, entangled Chillabai, and pinned him to the ground. Chillabai, who was bound by layers of wooden stakes, struggled with all his might and roared, "You damned bastards!" Nagato didn't answer. He just raised his hand and gently clenched his fist. Suddenly, the wooden stakes on Chillabai's body became tighter. Not only that, but there was also a wooden stake directly covering Chillabai's mouth, so he couldn't make a sound. Seeing how Nagato easily subdued the powerful eight-tailed human's Jinchuriki, not even using the Earth Blow Heavenly Star, Hyojin couldn't help but secretly click his tongue. Using the wood release so smoothly, it seems that his body has completely integrated and adapted to the first-generation cells, but why did he adapt so quickly? Jishui still has a hard time using the wood release. Is it because of the Rinnegan? Using this rare opportunity, Hyojin carefully observed Nagato while evaluating Nagato's state. In theory, once the first-generation cells are successfully implanted, they have the ability to use the wood release. However, having the ability to use the wood release did not mean that one could use the wood release that was as powerful as the first generation. For example, Yamato, Obito, Shursui, and Itachi were all able to use the wood release after being transplanted with the first generation's cells. However, they were unable to use the wood release as they pleased like the first generation. They were also unable to use the wood man technique, wood dragon technique, flower tree world descends, true thousand hands, and other high-level wood release technique. It can be said that in the ninja world, only Madara Uchiha is close to the first generation and can use the wood release, because he is the only ninja who can use the flower tree world descend apart from the first generation. At the moment, the information is limited. Hyojin can't judge to what extent Nagato has developed the wood release, but in terms of physique, Nagato, who has the body of the whirlpool and the thousand hands, is obviously better than Madara Uchiha, who only has the first generation cells transplanted. At this time, Obsidian walked over and saw that Nagato only has Naruto in his hand, so he wondered, "Didn't you get something extra over there?" Nagato's face was calm. "I left the Flying Thunder God technique on the 9 tails and the 7 tails Jinchuriki, and the 7 tails Jinchuriki was taken back by Hatake Kakashi." Obsidian murmured to himself. Kakashi Hyojin also took the opportunity to walk over, pointed to Naruto who was held in Nagato's hand, and said casually, "If you need, I can help you get rid of the Flying Thunder God technique on his body." Nagato wanted to refuse, but on second thought, he was a little curious about what kind of ability Hyojin Aoki has hidden, so he threw Naruto to the ground. Obsidian also looked at Hyojin with a playful expression. Like Nagato, he also wanted to take this opportunity to explore the Hyojin Aoki in front of him. It must be known that the Flying Thunder God technique is not so easy to get rid of. He still has the Flying Thunder God technique left by Yondaime, but fortunately Yondaime is dead, and even his soul has been sealed in the stomach of the Shinigami, so the Flying Thunder God technique is no longer a threat to him. Hyojin walked towards Naruto while glancing at Chalabi, who was bound by the wood release in the distance from the corner of his eyes, and secretly said in his heart, "Kakashi, there is only one chance, don't drop the ball." The second update is here, asking for monthly votes at the end of the month. Please support the students who have monthly vote. In addition, thank you to the students who gave gifts yesterday. Thank you everyone. Chapter 875. Hyojin leisurely came to Naruto's side. Taking the opportunity to check the Flying Thunder God on Naruto's back, Hyojin confirmed the position of all the Akatsuki members present. The biggest threat to him is undoubtedly Nagato, who is 3 to 4 meters away from him. Because the Rinnegan has the ability to extract and even read souls, it can directly cause damage to a spirit body. As for the other Akatsuki members, although they can injure his current puppet body, it's difficult for them to harm his soul body, so they don't pose any threat to him. Glancing at Nagato, Hyojin said calmly, "I need to first remove the seal you placed on him, then I can remove the Flying Thunder God on his back." Nagato nodded indifferently, no emotion could be seen on his face. On the other hand, Obito moved a little closer, as if he wanted to see how Suijin removed the Soren Thunder God Jutsu, but at the same time, he seemed to be guarding against Suijin. After all, 9 Tails is the strongest among all the tailed beasts, and this time he finally caught him. Naturally he can't lose him. The seal that Nagato used to seal the Flying Thunder God on Naruto's back is the 4 symbols seal of the Uzumaki clan, which happens to be the seal that Hyojin is best at. To remove the 4 symbols seal, Hyojin doesn't even need to make hand seals, so he quietly adjusted his posture, and then under the curious eyes of the people around him, he grabbed Naruto and threw Naruto to Chalabi, who was bound by the wood release not far away, and at the moment when Naruto was released, he also removed the 4 symbols seal on Naruto's back. "You?" All the Akatsuki members present were taken aback, For a moment, they didn't quite understand why Hyojin threw Naruto to Chillabai, who was bound by the wood release. Only Nagato and Obsidian, who were the closest to the scene, noticed that the moment Hyojin threw Naruto, he quietly removed the 4 symbols seal on Naruto's body and realized that there was a trap. Nagato hesitated for a moment, then raised his arm in the direction of Naruto and Chillabai, while Obsidian quickly shrank his body and quickly disappeared from Hyojin's sight. After throwing Naruto, Hyojin's attention has been on Nagato. Seeing Nagato raise his arm and launch 10 symbols attraction at Naruto, he immediately launched Rain Pull at Nagato. Boom boom boom. In an instant, the repulsive force of Rain Pull and the suction force of 10 symbols attraction intertwined, distorting the air, and the air that was squeezed by the 2 huge forces could not bear the burden and issued a burst of low explosive sound. The huge impact caused by the explosion was like an invisible giant wave, sweeping fiercely in all directions, and sent Hyojin and Nagato flying. At the same time, swoosh, in a sharp whistling sound, a figure came shuttling and landed beside Naruto. There was no doubt that this person who came shuttling was Kakashi, who kept sensing the Flying Thunder God technique on Naruto in my village. When he sensed that the Flying Thunder God technique on Naruto's body was reactivated, he did not hesitate at all and immediately launched the Flying Thunder God technique to shuttle over. Seeing Kakashi arrive on time and land beside Naruto and Chillabai, Hyojin, who was sent flying, raised the corner of his mouth. While adjusting his posture in the air to prepare to retreat, he said to himself, "Got it." "What? Damn it!" Oh no! When the surrounding members of the Akatsuki saw Kakashi suddenly appear, they immediately reacted, and at the same time, they all attacked Kakashi. However, Sasori, who was the closest to Kakashi, was more than 20 meters away. As for the others, they were more than 30 meters away. Even if they used the teleportation technique, they would not be able to stop Kakashi in time. However, the scene where Kakashi used the Flying Thunder God technique to take away Naruto and Chillabai in an instant did not happen. When Kakashi, who was shuttling over, he staggered and almost fell to the ground. The smile on Hyojin's face instantly froze. The surrounding members of the Akatsuki were also quite surprised, but they did not hesitate any longer and all rushed over. At this moment, Kakashi was also complaining. When he sensed the Flying Thunder God technique on Naruto's body, he vaguely felt that the distance was very far, but in order to race against time, he did not carefully evaluate the distance, but immediately used the Flying Thunder God technique. But after shuttling over, he found that most of the chakra in his body had been sucked out by the Flying Thunder God technique. Only then did he realize that this place was probably thousands of miles away from my village, or even outside the territory of the Country of Fire. One should know that the Flying Thunder God technique was not without a price. The farther the distance, the more chakra's amount, and the more chakra the caster would consume. After suppressing the dizziness, Kakashi hurriedly looked around. As he expected, with just a glance, he could confirm that there were at least 6 or 7 Akatsuki members present, but because he was prepared, he was not surprised. It's just that in addition to Naruto, there was also the Cloud Yachibi's Jinchuriki, which was bound by the wood release, which was beyond his expectation. But now is obviously not the time to explore why the Yachibi's Jinchuriki is also here, and being able to rescue the 2 Jinchuriki that were kidnapped by the Akatsuki is naturally a good thing for the 5 great shinobi villages, so Kakashi gritted his teeth and grabbed Naruto with one hand, while the other hand reached out to Chakra, who was tightly entangled by the wood release. Chapter 876. The roar caused by the wheel manipulation reverberated in the valley for a long time. The dust that was stirred up flew even higher due to the airflow that was blocked by the surrounding mountain walls. It almost covered the entire forest, and it seemed like it was going to spread out. In addition, the sun had just risen and the sky was rather dark, so everything in the surroundings was plunged into darkness. Slowly descending from the sky, Nagato, who was trapped in the smoke and dust, had a rare look of solemnity on his face. The fact that his opponent could unleash such a level of Shinra Tensei had greatly exceeded his expectations. This level of strength was almost close to the Shinra Tensei that he had used to destroy Mai. Because of this, Kuroda didn't waste Chakra's wind release ninjutsu to disperse the smoke. Because Kuroda is very clear that the entire valley and even the entire forest is shrouded in smoke at this moment, and it's not something that can be easily dispelled with 1 or 2 wind release ninjutsu, and it's not necessary. After sensing for a while, Nagato walked in a certain direction. Under the impact of Hyojin's wheel pull, everyone in the field was blown away. Some were even blown a few kilometers away. But no matter how far, the tailed beast aura on Naruto's body could not be hidden from him. In the distance, Kakashi crawled out of the mound in a sorry state. Before he could even catch his breath, he hurriedly checked Naruto's condition. After confirming that Naruto was only unconscious and not injured, he let out a sigh of relief. But very quickly, he became distressed again. The amount of chakra left in his body was not enough to carry Naruto back to my village with the Flying Thunder God spell. Even returning to the village by himself was a bit difficult. This was mainly because this place was too far away from Mai, and he had already used up more than half of his chakra to save Fu. Although he had recovered a little while waiting, he was far from his peak condition. Just as Kakashi was pondering how to escape with Naruto, he heard the sound of footsteps coming from the smoke. The footsteps were very calm, without a hint of panic. It was clear that the other party was very calm. Kakashi's eyes narrowed as he looked over warily. From the moment he passed through to the moment he was sent flying by the Rui wheel, the entire process had only taken a few breaths of time. Thus, he did not have the time to carefully analyze the situation. But judging from the fact that the seal on Naruto's body was lifted, and the fact that Cloud Village's Hachibi's Jinchuriki happened to be by his side, there should be an ally present at this moment. Otherwise, there was no way to explain these coincidences. It's just that he has no clue as to who this ally is, because he can't imagine who would be able to choose such a timing to remove the seal on Naruto's body when the Akatsuki members are gathered here. At this time, the figure in the smoke approached, and after recognizing the identity of the other party, Kakashi's expression stagnated. This is the person he least wants to meet, and it's impossible for him to be an ally. And looking at Kakashi in front of him, Nagato said indifferently, "It's you again, Hatake Kakashi." Kakashi didn't answer and immediately took out several special Flying Thunder God kunai from his waist and threw them in all directions. "It seems that you are indeed a troublesome person." After a pause, Nagato's tone became more murderous. "This time, I won't let you escape again." Kakashi's face was solemn when he heard this on the other side. Hyojin, who was also trapped in the smoke, slowly activated the Byakugan. Yes, the eye sockets of this puppet are a pair of real Byakugan. If Hyojin guessed correctly, this pair of Byakugan should be the Byakugan of the clan elder who was killed by Kuroda Aoki. After all, in the current ninja world, there are only a few Byakugan that are not bound by the caged bird. Using the Byakugan to observe in the smoke that covered the sky, Hyojin quickly confirmed the location of Kakashi and Naruto, and immediately his figure flashed and rushed over. Kakashi's state just now was obviously due to the lack of chakra. Otherwise, with Kakashi's skills, it's impossible for him to make such a low-level mistake just now. Therefore, not only can Hyojin not evacuate now, but he also has to find Kakashi first and transfer some chakra to Kakashi so that Kakashi can escape with Naruto. Swish, shuttling through the smoke, Hyojin soon arrived at the place where he found Kakashi and Naruto, but there were only 2 pieces of gravel, one big and one small. Is it Byakugan Hyojin, who participated in the Third Ninja World War, immediately realized that he was deceived by the chakra phantom created by Byakugan. Before the Byakugan clan was exterminated by the Mist Village, Byakugan was known as the natural enemy of Byakugan because it naturally had the ability to create chakra phantom and restrain the Byakugan's ability to see through things. Kacha. Suddenly, the ground under Hyojin's feet cracked, and a figure holding a bone blade rushed out. Humph! With a light snort, Kuroto's figure turned around and with an incredible speed, before the other party could swing the bone blade down, he turned around and kicked the other party away. Swoosh! Another sharp whistling sound came from the other side, attacking Hyojin from the other side. Hyojin's expression didn't change, and he directly reached out and grabbed the beheading blade, one of the Mist Village's 7 ninja blades, that cut through the smoke with a sharp whistling sound. Clang! The sharp beheading greatsword slashed on Suijin's outstretched palm, producing a sound of metal colliding with metal. Then, Pipa Juzo's pupils suddenly shrank, because he was shocked to find that Hyojin only used one hand to pinch the beheading blade that he swung with all his strength. Not only that, the blade that was pinched by his opponent didn't move at all, he couldn't even pull it out. Just when Pipa Juzo was in a dilemma, hesitating whether to abandon the blade or not, another figure rushed out of the thick smoke. This person was Ghost Mermaid, who was waving the double-blade flounder. Ghost Mermaid was very experienced. He didn't choose to attack Hyojin directly, but waved the flounder in an explosive state, and fiercely hammered the back of the beheading blade that was pinched by Hyojin with one hand. Bang! The huge force hit, and Hyojin took a few steps back. The ground under his feet was also shaken, and cracks spread out in all directions. But Kuroto's arm was still unscathed, because the puppet made by Sasori is a weapon from head to toe, and in the state of full chakra, the strength of the arm is no weaker than an ordinary chakra blade. And Pipa Juzo took the opportunity to pull out the beheading blade that was pinched by Hyojin with one hand, and without hesitation, he flashed into the smoke. This smoke may be a huge interference for ordinary ninjas, but for the mist ninjas who were good at mist assassination techniques, the smoke was no different from thick fog, so the current environment did not affect the mist team's combat. But they obviously underestimated the strength of Hyojin. A carefully designed trap was easily broken by Hyojin. After dragging the beheading blade into the smoke, Pipa Juzo breathed a long sigh of relief, but at this moment, he vaguely heard a muffled groan not far away. Huh? Pipa Juzo heard this muffled groan with a trace of pain, a bit like the sound of his teammate Hua. Before Pipa Juzo could confirm whether the muffled groan just now was made by Hua, another cry of pain came from his other side without warning. Lotus. This time, Pipa Juzo immediately recognized that the cry of pain was made by Lotus, and his face suddenly became gloomy, and his eyes were full of surprise. As a member of the Kagaya clan with the corpse bone vein, Lotus' ability to endure pain was absolutely outstanding among ninjas, so it was hard for him to imagine what kind of attack could make Lotus cry out in pain. In surprise, Pipa Juzo heard a shout from the Ghost Mermaid not far away. Water release. Explosive water blast. Walala! Although the smoke obscured the vision, the air suddenly filled with water vapor, and the loud sound of the waves, all showed that the Ghost Mermaid was using a powerful water release ninjutsu. The experienced Pipa Juzo immediately transmitted the chakra to his feet, and was ready to step on the water. But after a few breaths, the expected waves did not come, and even the air returned to its previous dryness, as if the water release just now did not happen at all. Ninjutsu absorption? Pipa Juzo thought of a possibility. Because ninjutsu absorption may be a strange thing to others, but it was not unfamiliar to the members of the Akatsuki organization, because their leader Nagato had this ability. Soon, the surroundings returned to silence. And the quieter the surroundings, the more afraid Pipa Juzo was. He wanted to call out to his teammates to confirm their status, but years of experience told him that at this time, it meant that he would be exposed, so he could only suppress the urge to call out to his teammates and carefully sense the situation around him. Just as Pipa Juzo was looking around, a faint voice came from behind him. "Are you looking for something?" Pipa Juzo was shocked, and his heart suddenly jumped to his throat. Here's the second update, Monday's leaderboard update. Please recommend it. It's nothing, please support it. Also, thank you to the students who gave gifts yesterday. Thank you everyone. Chapter 877. Pipa Juzo, who was proficient in the fog assassination technique, did not expect that someone could sneak behind him without a sound. He was so shocked that he did not have time to think about it. He turned around and swung his sword. Just like before, Hyojin grabbed the beheading sword that Pipa Juzo swung with one hand, but this time he did not talk nonsense. His other hand directly stabbed Pipa Juzo's chest. Crash! Pipa Juzo, who was pierced in the chest, suddenly turned into a splash and fell to the ground. "Water clone," Hyojin whispered indifferently, and immediately held the beheading sword in his hand. Pipa Juzo abandoned the sword very decisively this time. He made a judgment almost in an instant. The sword that he turned around and slashed was just a feint to cover his escape. However, this set of tactics couldn't be hidden from Suijin's eyes at all. With a quick glance, Suijin found Pipa Juzo, and with a grin, he threw the beheading sword in his hand. Swish! The big and heavy beheading sword instantly disappeared in the smoke with the sound of the wind breaking. Almost at the same time, there was a muffled groan of suppressed pain in the direction where the beheading sword flew. Obviously, the beheading sword that Hyojin threw hit Pipa Juzo, who was fleeing in panic. Zzz! At this moment, there was a faint sound of electric current in the distance. "Rachel?" Hyojin's face was cold. He did not care about dealing with Pipa Juzo. His figure shook and disappeared. On the other side, Kakashi, who was carrying Naruto, was quite embarrassed. In order to get rid of Nagato's pursuit, he used all his skills. After some entanglement, his body was covered with scars, and there was a black stick in his left leg. Not only did it greatly reduce his mobility, but even the little chakra in his body was not listening to him. Glancing at the black stick in his leg, Kakashi wanted to pull it out, but as soon as his hand touched it, the chakra in his body immediately became violent, making him weak and unable to exert any strength. Sigh! Falling to the ground, Kakashi let out a sigh. It was not an easy task to pull out the black rod that was stuck in his body, especially when his stamina and chakra were exhausted. However, if he did not pull out the black rod immediately, Nagato, who had been lured away with great difficulty, would soon catch up to him. What a pity! I couldn't get you out. Glancing at Naruto, who was still in a coma, Kakashi said to himself apologetically. Trapped in the enemy's camp, isolated and without help, coupled with the fact that his chakra was about to run out, Kakashi's current situation was undoubtedly a dead end. At this moment, forget about rescuing Naruto. He couldn't even escape. Suddenly, Kakashi sensed that someone was rapidly approaching, so he turned his head to look at the dusky smoke in front of him, and his hand instinctively flashed with dazzling lightning again. Swoosh! In the blink of an eye, a figure broke through the smoke and appeared in front of Kakashi. This person was Hyojin, who had heard the sound and rushed over. Found it! Seeing that Kakashi and Naruto were all right, Hyojin's face was filled with joy. Immediately, Hyojin's attention fell on the black rod that was stuck in Kakashi's leg. He immediately frowned and wanted to rush over to pull out the black rod. Because every black rod was a transmitter, as long as it was on the body, Nagato could sense it at any time. Hyojin, who had no time to explain, instantly rushed in front of Kakashi, pulled out the black rod that was stuck in Kakashi's leg, and threw it far away. At the same time, Kakashi's right hand also pierced the chest of Hyojin's puppet body. The destructive power of the ray was displayed vividly at this time. The puppet body that even the beheading greatsword couldn't do anything to was instantly penetrated by the ray. You? Both of them looked at each other in astonishment. Kakashi didn't expect that Hyuga Aoki, who was suspected to be Hyuga Aoki, would rush over to help him pull out the black rod, and Kuroto didn't expect Kakashi to be so decisive, so he fell into the trap. Kakashi's action was not without reason. When he was still in the village, Asuma and others who were attacked by Hyojin Aoki had already submitted various information about Hyojin Aoki to the village, and guessed that Hyojin Aoki was probably the culprit who opened the box of bliss and released enlightenment. Therefore, the moment he saw Hyojin Aoki pouncing on him, Kakashi didn't hesitate to launch a counterattack. Hyojin, on the other hand, was a little negligent because he was a puppet body, plus he didn't guard against Kakashi, and he was anxious about why Kakashi pulled out the black rod, so he was accidentally attacked by Kakashi. Fortunately, it was just a puppet body. Although the damage was serious, it would only affect the performance of the puppet, and there was no real damage to Hyojin. After realizing that the other party may be an ally, Kakashi hurriedly asked, "Who are you?" Hyojin didn't answer. While putting his hand on Kakashi's shoulder, he looked around with the supercilious eyes, vigilant of Nagato who may arrive at any time. Kakashi wanted to ask a few more questions, but suddenly found that an unusually soft chakra was continuously pouring into his body. "What are you doing?" Kakashi, who was staring at Hyojin, was a little confused. According to the information he got in the village, it was clear that the person in front of him released Satoshi, attacked the village, and injured dozens of umbu in the woods outside the village. It stands to reason that such a person would never help him, but the scene in front of him made him believe that the other party is the ally who unlocked the seal on Naruto. Moreover, the other party's chakra is very strange. He has never felt this kind of chakra. It is very soft, there is no sense of sluggishness, and just by feeling, he can judge that the strength of this chakra is very high, far better than the chakra extracted from the body of an ordinary ninja, even higher quality than the chakra that Tsunade passed to him before. Soon, another figure broke through the smoke and appeared in front of Hyojin and Kakashi. It was Nagato. Hyojin immediately got up and stopped in front of Kakashi and said to Kakashi behind him, "Chakra is enough, let's go." Kakashi first nodded, and then immediately said, "What about the Cloud Village's Hachibi's Jinchuriki? How can we care about him now?" After a pause, Hyojin urged, "Let's go." Chakra took advantage of Hyojin's rain pull to break free from the shackles of wood release, and escaped alone, so he has long disappeared. Nagato stared coldly at Hyojin and Kakashi and said, "Don't even think about escaping. The first update is here, it's the end of the month, please support me with your monthly votes, if you don't vote it will be a waste." Chapter 878. Bang! Before Nagato's voice died away, Kakashi, who was behind Hyojin, was sent flying without any warning, and almost at the same time, Nagato flashed to where Kakashi was just now. He raised his hand and sucked the unconscious Naruto into his palm, and once again sealed the Flying Thunder God technique on Naruto's body. Hyojin, who was slightly surprised, flashed and pulled away from Nagato. Just a moment ago, Nagato sent Kakashi flying under his eyes, took back Naruto, and resealed the Flying Thunder God technique on Naruto's body. Moreover, the sealing technique used was one that Kuroto had never seen before. It was no longer the four symbols seal that he had seen before. "Is it the Luan Tomb border prison?" Hyojin secretly analyzed. The technique used by Nagato was probably the pupil technique of the Samsara Eyes, Luan Tomb border prison. Because just now, Kakashi was sent flying without any warning. Not to mention Kakashi, even Hyojin, who was on guard, didn't notice the slightest clue. Hyojin thought about it, and the only thing that could do this so easily was the silent Luan Tomb doppelganger. And at the moment when Kakashi was sent flying, Nagato directly passed Hyojin's obstruction and flashed to the side of Naruto. This was also in line with the characteristics of the Luan Tomb border prison, the pupil technique of the Samsara eyes, because the caster of this pupil technique could exchange space with his Luan Tomb doppelganger. In other words, the Luan Tomb border prison was also a kind of space-time pupil technique. At the thought that he may have been surrounded by Nagato's Luan Tomb doppelganger, Hyojin subconsciously looked around. However, ordinary Byakugan can't observe the Luan Tomb doppelganger shuttling between the shinobi world and the Luan Tomb space. Only the Tenseigan on Hyojin's body can see a vague outline. Damn, this is troublesome. Kuroto groaned inwardly. At this time, Nagato stared at Hyojin and said coldly, "You are not Hyojin Aoki, who are you?" Although he was anxiously thinking of a way to break out of this situation, Hyojin's face was calm, and even the corners of his mouth were curled up into a playful smile. "Did you find out I thought I could play for a while?" Play? There was a trace of anger on Nagato's usually indifferent face. Hyojin's words obviously angered him. Capturing the subtle changes on Nagato's face, Hyojin suddenly thought of an idea, and immediately said deliberately, "You should feel honored to be my plaything." Nagato's eyes were cold. "You are Yama?" In his opinion, only the leader of Amatsukami, Yama, was qualified to talk to him like this in the shinobi world. Other so-called strong people, even the Kage of the 5 great ninja villages, were not qualified to talk to him in this tone. At this time, Hyojin deliberately put away the smile on his face and said lightly, "Hyojin Aoki, that ant, dares to fight against me. It's really ridiculous. My Otsutsuki family is not something that you ants can fight against." Otsutsuki. After saying this silently, the expression on Nagato's face became more solemn. The surname Otsutsuki is not unfamiliar to Nagato. In order to find out the ninjutsu used by Yama and the origin of his Rinnegan, he secretly read many ancient books collected by the Akatsuki organization. Many ancient books mentioned that the legendary sage of the 6 paths was from the Otsutsuki family. Even his own Uzumaki family, if traced back to its roots, is very likely to be a branch of the Otsutsuki family in the mythological era. Not far away, Zetsu, who had half of his body poked out from the ground, also heard Hyojin's words. White Zetsu was shocked and said, "Yama is really from the Otsutsuki family on the moon. It seems that the information given to us by Hyojin Aoki is true, but unfortunately, that guy has been killed by the Otsutsuki." Black Zetsu's face was extremely solemn. Confirming this information is obviously not a good thing for him, because it means that the Otsutsuki Himura, who has not interfered in the shinobi world for thousands of years, has begun to intervene in the affairs of the shinobi world. Although he already had some doubts when Yama summoned the meteorite, when it was confirmed, he still felt annoyed that things were out of his control. Collecting his scattered thoughts, Nagato's eyes gradually became firm. He broke his indifferent expression and roared, "No one can treat me as a plaything, even you are no exception." White Zetsu said helplessly, "Every time he meets Yama, Nagato will lose his sense of propriety. Usually, no matter who Nagato is facing, he is indifferent and calm, and very few people can provoke his emotions, but when he meets Yama, he will lose control of his emotions." Black Zetsu still did not say a word. He just stared at Hyojin. Black Zetsu did not know much about the Otsutsuki Himura family on the moon, so he urgently needs to know the information about the Otsutsuki family on the moon at the moment, trying to understand why they suddenly intervene in the affairs of the shinobi world. Because he knew very well that it was not only Otsutsuki Yui who sealed his mother. It was Otsutsuki Yui and Otsutsuki Himura who worked together to seal his mother. Hyojin gradually floated into the air and said lazily, "I have heard too much of this kind of incompetence and anger. While I still have some interest in you, work hard to become stronger, plaything. Maybe one day when I lose interest in you, I'll come and take your life. When that time comes, don't disappoint me." Damn it! Under the stimulation of Hyojin, Nagato's huge chakra suddenly burst out. This powerful chakra that surpassed the tailed beast was so terrifying that the surrounding smoke and dust seemed to be pushed away by an invisible air wave, and even the air became dense. Gravity seemed to be affected, and the fine stones on the ground floated up one by one, and then were crushed into powder by the distorted air and dissipated in the air. In the distance, White Zetsu was speechless. This is too exaggerated. Has Nagato reached this level? Even Black Zetsu was quite surprised, let alone White Zetsu. After the battle of my destroying the village, Nagato had not used his full chakra, so his judgment of Nagato's strength was still at that time. Now that Nagato suddenly burst out, it immediately surprised him, and his expression became a little unnatural. Also feeling the terrifying chakra that Nagato released with all his strength, Hyojin was shocked, but he smiled faintly and said, it's finally a little more decent, but in front of me, Otsutsuki Samurai, this level of chakra is not enough for me to take seriously. Otsutsuki Samurai, huh? After whispering, Nagato roared with a determined face, "Come on, Otsutsuki Samurai, let's fight to the death." After roaring, Nagato stretched out his hands and angrily performed the 10,000 mammoth attraction, trying to suck Hyojin over. Hyojin, who had been waiting for this moment, smiled and stretched out his hands. Whoosh! All of a sudden, a huge wave surged out from Hyojin's palms, violently attacking Nagato. This huge wave was the water release ninjutsu explosive water shockwave that Hyojin had just used to absorb the tailless ghost mermaid. After releasing this ninjutsu, his spiritual body instantly left this puppet body and quietly disappeared in the dust. The sudden appearance of the huge wave immediately blocked Nagato's vision. His face darkened. Then, he calmly executed the 10,000 mammoth heavenly attraction with one hand and the hungry ghost Dao's sealing suction seal with the other. Therefore, the exaggerated water release ninjutsu of the ghost mermaid was absorbed by Nagato as soon as it was released by Hyojin. The huge wave just rose and disappeared, as if everything that had just happened was just an illusion. At the same time, Hyojin's puppet body was sucked over by Nagato's 10,000 mammoth attraction, then Nagato grabbed it by the neck. After grabbing the neck of Hyojin's puppet body, Nagato immediately felt that something was wrong, because the puppet body in his hand had completely lost the chakra reaction, and even the white eyes in the eye sockets had lost their spirituality. Did he leave? Just now, the huge wave released by Hyojin temporarily blocked Nagato's vision and interfered with Nagato's chakra. Therefore, Nagato didn't notice that Hyojin's soul had left the puppet body. He didn't realize it until he grabbed the neck of Hyojin's puppet body. Swish! At this moment, Kakashi suddenly showed up in front of Nagato. Because he was irritated by Hyojin's words, Nagato focused all his attention on Hyojin's puppet body, which had already lost its soul. He wasn't prepared for Kakashi's sudden appearance, and Kakashi, who had been replenished by Hyojin's chakra, didn't hesitate this time. He immediately grabbed Naruto, who was at Nagato's feet, and instantly activated the Flying Thunder God technique and disappeared on the spot. Nagato, who came back to his senses, wanted to stop him, but he was still a step too late. Immediately, a wave of doubt surged in Nagato's mind. He had clearly sealed the Flying Thunder God technique on Naruto's body, and also confirmed that there were no other Flying Thunder God techniques on Naruto's body or the surrounding ground. Therefore, he didn't understand how Kakashi could directly flash in front of him without any positioning coordinate. Could it be? As if thinking of something, Nagato's eyes immediately fell on Hyojin's puppet body in his hand. Then, he found an extremely well-hidden Flying Thunder God technique inside the damaged chest of the puppet body. In an instant, Nagato understood everything. It turned out that the reason why Kakashi could flash in front of him and take away Naruto just now was because of the positioning coordinates of this puppet body that he had attracted with the 10,000 nature summoning. He already knew that his puppet body had the Flying Thunder God technique left by Kakashi, so he deliberately abandoned this puppet body and let me absorb the Flying Thunder God technique to his side, creating an opportunity for Kakashi? After understanding this, Nagato was ashamed and angry. There was no doubt that Hyojin had deliberately provoked Nagato and disturbed Nagato's emotions just to send his puppet body to Nagato without arousing Nagato's suspicion. Because when he was accidentally injured by Kakashi, Kakashi took the opportunity to leave a Flying Thunder God technique in the wound of his puppet body. This was actually the usual trick of Kakashi's teacher, 4 generations Naruto. At the moment of hitting the enemy, he would leave the Flying Thunder God technique, and then he could launch a surprise second round of attack. Although Kakashi did it covertly, he couldn't hide it from Hyojin. And Hyojin, who was aware of this, thought of this tactic around this point. Hyojin believed that Kakashi could seize this opportunity that he had painstakingly created. He liked to joke that Kakashi could fight with anyone. This was a kind of joke, but it was also an affirmation of Kakashi's tactical ability. The fact that Kakashi could fight with anyone without the bloodline of the Otsutsuki family and his body's hardware was insufficient was proof of his excellent tactical ability, and it was proof that he could use tactics to make up for his combat power. If it was someone else, this tactic of Hyojin might be meaningless, but if it was Kakashi, then it was very worth Hyojin to fight for this probability. At this time, a twisted whirlpool appeared beside Nagato, and then, Obsidian walked out of the whirlpool carrying the unconscious Chalabi. Obviously, Obsidian, who had not shown up just now, went to chase after Chalabi, who took the opportunity to escape. And Chalabi obviously failed to escape Obsidian's pursuit, and once again fell into Obsidian's hands. After throwing the unconscious Chalabi to the ground, Obsidian said with a solemn face, "Nagato, this place has been exposed. We must move immediately." Obsidian had undoubtedly heard the conversation between Nagato and Hyojin just now. Just like Zetsu, after confirming that Yamato of Amatsukami was the Otsutsuki family on the moon, his heart was in turmoil at this moment. This was because he had too little information about the Otsutsuki family on the moon, and from the tone of Otsutsuki samurai just now, he could clearly feel the other party's disdain for Nagato. And Nagato's chakra just now had already made his heart jump. Such a powerful Nagato, yet the other party did not take him seriously, so he felt a little uncertain in his heart. Nagato was silent, and his face was a little embarrassed. The 2 human Jinchuriki that he had personally captured were both lost. This not only made him lose face, but also made him feel a kind of frustration that he had never felt before. Obsidian advised, "Nagato, you must calm down. Now is not the time to fight with the Otsutsuki family." At this time, Zetsu also rushed over and said, "Yes, the enemy this time is unprecedentedly strong. Before we collect enough information, we can't fight with them recklessly." Whether it was Obsidian or Zetsu, they were obviously frightened by Hyojin. They felt that they could not fight with them recklessly before they resurrected the 10 tails. Nagato threw away the puppet body in his hand, looked up at the sky, and said with gritted teeth, "Otsutsuki samurai, one day I will prove to you that I, Nagato, am not a plaything." The 2nd and 3rd chapters have been updated consecutively. Please get your monthly tickets at the end of the month. Also, thank you to the students who tipped yesterday. Thank you everyone. Chapter 879. Bang! 4 generations laying slammed his fist heavily on the conference table, causing the sturdy table to distort and collapse. How long are we going to continue this meaningless discussion? We should immediately organize a rescue team instead of wasting our saliva here. Facing the roar of 4 generations laying, everyone in the conference room had a solemn expression. Today is the 3rd day after the night of Uchiha's rebellion, and after 3 days of combing through the information, the 5 great shinobi villages have confirmed that on the night 3 days ago, the Akatsuki organization attacked the 8 tails Jinchuriki Kairabi and the 4 tails Jinchuriki Yagura in the Land of Fire, the 6 tails Jinchuriki Taka in the Land of Water, and the 7 tails Jinchuriki Lifu and the 9 tails Jinchuriki Naruto in Mount Mayaboku. Among them, only Yagura managed to escape the capture of the Akatsuki organization because he took Hyojin's warning seriously, while the other 4 Jinchuriki were all captured by the Akatsuki organization. Fortunately, Mai set up the Flying Thunder God technique on Naruto and Fu, so after Kakashi's efforts, Naruto and Fu were barely rescued. Only Kairabi and Taka eventually fell into the hands of the Akatsuki organization. This is also the reason why 4 Generations Laying is so angry, because the 2 perfect Jinchuriki of the Cloud Village were both captured by the Akatsuki organization, especially Kairabi. Especially the Hachibi's Jinchuriki. He and the Raikage were like brothers. He was the pillar of the Cloud Village. His fall was a heavy blow to the Cloud Village. Just like 4 Generations Laying, 4 Generations Mizukage Yagura's face is also very ugly. Through the messenger bird, he has received an urgent message from the Mist Village and learned that the 6 tails Jinchuriki Yagura was captured by the Akatsuki organization. There was no doubt that this was the work of a traitor. Coupled with the fact that the Akatsuki organization's Mist team that attacked them that night, all of them were traitorous ninjas from the Mist Village, this undoubtedly made him, the Mizukage of 4 generations, feel ashamed. The 3 generations Tsuchikage on the side also frowned. 2 of their Jinchuriki from the Rock Village fell into the hands of Akatsuki. In comparison, only the 4 generations of Kazekage had it easier. The 4 generations of Kazekage had hesitated for a long time when they decided to execute Odaro's Jinchuriki. Now that he thought about it, he felt a little glad about the decision, because judging from the current situation in the shinobi world, except for Mai, the other shinobi villages can't hold the Jinchuriki at all. If he didn't ruthlessly execute Odoro at that time, then Odoro would have most likely fallen into the hands of Akatsuki just like the other Jinchuriki. At that time, not only would Sand Crypsis lose Odoro, but they would also lose an important Odoro. But now, Sand Crypsis feels that Odoro is in a state of natural resurrection because of Odoro's execution. As for when it will resurrect and where it will resurrect, no one knows, so the pressure on Sand Crypsis is the least. Seeing that everyone in the meeting room was silent, 4 Generations Laying angrily said, "Why don't you speak, are you afraid?" Kakashi tried to appease him, Laying, "Sama, please calm down a little." "Calm down?" 4 Generations Laying snorted coldly, then said in a muffled voice, "Now that Akatsuki has 5-tailed beasts in their hands, how can I calm down? 2-tailed beasts from Cloud Village, 2 from Rock Village, and 1 from Mist Village. In total, Akatsuki has successfully captured the 2nd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 8th-tailed beasts. As for the remaining 4-tailed beasts, in addition to the 3, 7, and 9 tails gathered under Mai, there is only one that Hyojin secretly hid. The more we are in such a situation, the more we need to calm down." After a pause, Kakashi said with a serious face, "We have already sent people to investigate the Akatsuki base in the Land of Grass. Before the results of the investigation come out, I suggest that we don't act rashly." 3 Generations Tsuchikage said coldly, "Don't be silly, since the base has been exposed, Akatsuki will definitely not continue to keep the Jinchuriki there." Deadale crossed his arms over his chest and said indifferently, "It's been a few days, maybe the Jinchuriki have already been killed." "Ah, bastard, what are you talking about?" Glancing at Deadale, 4 Generations Laying roared, "If your Amatsukami is willing to help us, Akatsuki won't be a threat at all." Deadale wasn't afraid of 4 Generations Laying and immediately replied, "Hey, I already told you, I am not a member of Amatsukami, your memory is too bad. You bastard, are you courting death?" 4 Generations Laying, who was already angry, suddenly broke out in chakra. Deadale eagerly put his hands into the ninja bag on his waist and said with a smile, "Do you want to fight? I can show you my newly developed clay technique. This is real art, ah." Soon, those who were trying to mediate and those who were quarreling began to quarrel. The originally quiet meeting room immediately became noisy. At this time, everyone was restless and anxious, like dry wood, they were lit on fire. Yawn, looking at the noisy crowd in front of him, Hyojin lazily yawned. At this time, his mind was completely focused on the giant Tenseigan he had just obtained. If it wasn't for 5th generation Naruto's identity, he wouldn't have attended this meeting, which was destined to have no results. Hyojin's yawn immediately attracted everyone's attention. Everyone stopped quarreling and looked at Hyojin. Obviously, at such an urgent moment, Hyojin's sloppy attitude caused a lot of people to be dissatisfied, especially 4 generations Liang, who was anxious to rescue Chillabai. He even glared at Hyojin. At this time, 4 generations of Kazekage, who hadn't spoken much, suddenly said to Hyojin, "Your Excellency Naruto, I have a doubt, I hope you can answer it for me." As soon as the 4 generations of Kazekage's voice fell, everyone on Mai's side in the conference room looked apprehensive. Their faces showed worried expressions because they had already guessed what the 4 generations of Kazekage wanted to ask. Hyojin didn't care much and asked casually, "Your Excellency Kazekage, what doubts do you have?" The 4 generations of Kazekage stared at Hyojin with sharp eyes and asked, "You were the one who stole the dragon vein back then, weren't you?" With a smile, Hyojin asked, "Does the dragon vein belong to the Sand Crypsis?" The 4 generations of Kazekage's face froze for a moment, and then said, "The dragon vein does not belong to the Sand Crypsis, but it also does not belong to Mai." Yes. Hyojin didn't deny this point. Seeing that Hyojin admitted that the dragon vein did not belong to Mai so easily, the 3 generations Naruto who attended the conference as an advisory elder frowned. Zhuan Xiaochun, who had been in charge of the village's foreign affairs, shook his head and thought to himself, "Kuroto is still too young. How can he admit this so easily when it comes to matters of ownership?" The 4 generations of Kazekage looked happy and asked anxiously, "Then how do you explain the fact that you stole the dragon vein?" "Steal." With a smile, Hyojin curled his lips and said, "Are you kidding me? I bought the dragon vein with money." Chapter 880. Buy it with money? The 4 generations of Kazekage were stunned for a moment, and their faces were filled with confusion. Not to mention the 4 generations of Kazekage, even the other senior members of the other shinobi villages present were surprised after listening to Hyojin's words, and a thought flashed in their minds. Can the dragon vein be bought? On the Mai side, Kakashi and others were also stunned. Because Hyojin has become the 5th generation Naruto of the village, so no matter what means Hyojin used to obtain the dragon vein, they can only bite the bullet and support Hyojin. They have thought of many possibilities, but they did not expect that the dragon vein was bought by Hyojin. Glancing at the people in the meeting room, Hyojin smiled and said, "Why, is there a rule that the dragon vein cannot be traded?" Chio of the Sand Crypsis said coldly, "Bought it? Humph. Isn't this excuse a little too perfunctory? Who did you buy it from? Who is qualified to sell the dragon vein?" The ownership of the dragon vein has always been clear. It neither belongs to Konoha nor Sand Village, but belongs to Rorin. Is there any doubt about this? Kuroto suddenly said with a serious tone, "The ownership of the dragon vein has always been clear. It neither belongs to Konoha nor Sand Village, but belongs to Rorin. Is there any doubt about this?" The 4 generations of Kazekage frowned. "So, you bought it from Rorin?" "Yes, it was Rorin Queen who traded with me," Hyojin said with full confidence. If he was the powerless Jonin of the past, the crime of stealing the dragon vein may be pinned on him, but now he is Naruto. Can Naruto's business be called stealing? What's more, although Kuroto was a bit sneaky at that time, He still paid for the dragon vein, and escorted Queen Roran and her people to get rid of the surveillance of the Sand Crypsis ninjas and escape from the Land of Wind. Therefore, no one in the shinobi world can question his ownership of the dragon vein. The people from the Sand Crypsis were speechless when they heard Hyojin mention the Lulan Queen. The 4 generations of Kazekage pondered for a moment and asked, "The Lulan survivors have long disappeared. You said that you have made a deal with the Lulan Queen, but who can prove it? You can't just say whatever you want, right?" "That's easy." After a pause, Hyojin smiled and said, "Didn't you want a witness? I'll find one for you." As he spoke, Hyojin gently patted the gourd on his waist. In an instant, a cyan-purple chakra rose from the gourd on Hyojin's waist, and then transformed into the shape of a dragon in the conference room. Pointing at the dragon vein, Hyojin smiled and said, "Well, what do you think of this witness?" With the appearance of the dragon vein chakra and hovering in the conference room, the originally empty conference room immediately became crowded. Including Mai's side, everyone in the conference room was secretly vigilant. Everyone knows that the chakra amount of the dragon vein is among the best even among the tailed beasts, and it may even surpass all other tailed beasts, only below the complete 9 tails. Therefore, when Kurodo suddenly released the dragon vein, all of them were shocked. If the dragon vein suddenly went berserk, everyone present would probably be in a bad situation. But soon everyone found that the dragon vein chakra is very stable, there is no sign of it going out of control. Perfect Jinchuriki? At this moment, everyone present couldn't help but think of this word. Those who can participate in this meeting, without exception, are the top elites of the 5 great shinobi villages, so each of them has sharp eyes and immediately judged that Suijin has signed a contract with the Ryumyaku and has become a Jinchuriki of the Ryumyaku. Judging from Suijin's calmness in controlling the Ryumyaku and the obedience shown by the Ryumyaku, it is obvious that Suijin and the Ryumyaku can communicate with each other, similar to the relationship between the perfect Jinchuriki and the tailed beast. At this time, Hyojin ordered the dragon vein, "Tell them if I made a deal with the Lulan Queen." The dragon vein in the shape of a dragon opened its mouth and said to everyone seriously with a voice that sounded like a 2- or 3-year-old child, "Yes, it cost 5 million. Ahem." Hyojin suddenly coughed twice and hurriedly put the dragon vein into the gourd Dharma artifact. Hearing the dragon vein say that Hyojin only spent 5 million to buy the dragon vein from the Lulan Queen, everyone looked at Hyojin strangely. 3 generations Naruto also couldn't help but glance at Hyojin. Kurodo still remembers that not long ago, Kurodo spent more than 10 million ryo to carve his own Hokage rock, making the previous Hashirama, second Hashirama, fourth Hashirama, and his own Hokage rock look extremely simple and crude. The first generation, second generation, and 4 generations have passed away, but he looked up every day and saw a row of Naruto rock. Among the 5th generation Naruto rock, Hyojin's Naruto rock was the most exquisite and unique. Such a sharp contrast made him depressed. "The price is not important, don't worry about these details." After letting out a hollow laugh, Suijin said with a solemn expression, "Now that Ryumyaku has personally testified, there should be no more doubts in everyone's mind." 4 generations of Kazekage and Chiyo looked at each other and finally chose to remain silent. After confirming that Hyojin is the dragon vein's Jinchuriki, they know that it is impossible to get the dragon vein back from Mai, so they can only choose to stay silent. After the end of the meeting, Mai and the others gathered in Naruto's office. Kakashi immediately asked, "Kurodo, where have you been these days?" Hyojin replied, "I have been investigating the whereabouts of the Akatsuki organization." In fact, in the past few days, Hyojin has been busy moving the giant Tenseigan to the Sky Fortress, so he didn't go back to the village. He just let the ninja crow send a message to the village that he is safe. He just returned to the village today, and as soon as he came back, he was dragged to participate in the 5 Kage meeting. Kakashi stared at Hyojin and asked a question in his heart. When you left that night, you said there is still a chance. What do you mean? That night, after Hyojin left this sentence, there really was a chance. Kakashi always felt that this is not a coincidence, but he can't connect Hyojin with the battle in the Land of Grass. Because the person who really opened the seal for Naruto and created an opportunity for him is not a bystander, but the leader of Amatsukami Yama. I want to see if I can find a chance to save Naruto, but I can't find any trace of Nagato. After a pause, Hyojin asked casually, "What's wrong?" Kakashi glanced at the three generations, Jiraiya, Tsunade, and others on the side, and immediately said to Hyojin with a solemn face, "Kuroto, we know the identity of Amatsukami's Yama. The second update, please vote at the end of the month. There is only a day and a half left in October. Students who still have monthly votes, don't forget to vote. In addition, thank you to the students who tipped yesterday. Thank you everyone." Chapter 881. Looking at Kakashi's inexplicable solemn expression, Hyojin knew that Kakashi, who was hiding in the distance, also heard the nonsense he told Nagato at that time. After pondering for a moment, Hyojin asked seriously, "Is that so? Who is this Yama?" "Kuroto, you have to be mentally prepared. The identity of Yama. How do I put it, it's a bit special." After saying that, Kakashi subconsciously lowered his voice and said mysteriously, "The Yama of Amatsukami is a member of the legendary Otsutsuki clan. His name is Otsutsuki Samurai." Otsutsuki clan? After showing a thoughtful expression, Hyojin pondered a little bit and said, "With my current development of the power of the bloodline, I should be able to barely be regarded as a member of the Otsutsuki clan, right?" Three generations took off the pipe in his mouth and introduced to Hyojin, the legendary sage of 6 paths who founded the shinobi sect and established the shinobi world, is the Otsutsuki clan that Kakashi mentioned. The Senju clan and the Uchiha clan in the village are also said to have the bloodline of the Otsutsuki clan and belong to the branch of the Otsutsuki clan. On the side, Tsunade nodded and said, "Our Senju clan and the Uzumaki clan of the Land of Whirlpools seem to have the bloodline of the Sage of 6 Paths. Like the Senju clan and the Uchiha clan in the shinobi world, there is a genealogy that has been passed down for thousands of years, but over the span of thousands of years, the genealogy will inevitably be lost and damaged, so even Tsunade is not sure that the Senju clan and the Uzumaki clan have the bloodline of the Sage of 6 Paths. After all, whether the Sage of 6 Paths really existed in the mythological era is still in doubt. Many ninjas in the shinobi world even regard the Sage of 6 Paths as an ordinary myth. However, when Tsunade was young, she had indeed heard some elders mention that the blood of the immortal of the 6 Paths flowed within the Thousand Hand clan. Regarding this, she held an attitude of trust. Because the members of the Senju clan, Uzumaki clan, and even the Uchiha clan are indeed born with talents far beyond that of ordinary ninjas. The founder of the Mai clan and the Uchiha clan raised the upper limit of the strength of the two clans to a level that ordinary people can't reach. Even ordinary Kage-class ninjas tremble in front of them, and the tailed beasts became toys in their hands that can be distributed and ordered at will. 3 generations continued. The Otsutsuki clan is very mysterious, and they seem to be born with all kinds of incredible abilities. In some ancient books, it was mentioned that the Sage of 6 Paths fought with a true god for the sake of peace in the shinobi world, and eventually defeated the true god and protected the shinobi world. But where did the Otsutsuki family come from, and where are they now? These are hard to verify. Hyojin didn't interrupt and just listened quietly, even though he has already grasped this information. At this time, Kakashi took over the conversation and said, "In fact, in the meeting just now, I didn't tell you the whole process of rescuing Naruto. There is an important piece of information that I concealed, that is, the dialogue between Amatsukami's Yama and Nagato, which also involved your Hyuga clan." Hyojin pretended to look at Kuroto with a curious expression. What information? Kuroto Aoki, a member of your Hyuga clan who betrayed the Hyuga clan and escaped, right? He seems to have some grudges with Yama Otsutsuki samurai, and because of this, he did not hesitate to cooperate with the Akatsuki organization. This time, opening the box of bliss in the village and releasing Satoshi is likely to be the culprit. After a pause, Kakashi continued, and he is likely to have been killed by Yama now, and Yama took his identity and entered the Akatsuki base to help me rescue Naruto. So that's how it is. Hyojin showed a timely expression of surprise. Kuroto, you should know what this means. Staring at Hyojin, 3 generations said seriously, why can Hyuga Aoki get rid of the shackles of the caged bird? How can he open the box of bliss? Why did he have a conflict with Yama Otsutsuki samurai? I am afraid the answer to all of this is hidden in your Hyuga clan. Hyojin's eyes narrowed. 3 generations are really experienced, grasping the key point of the matter so quickly. It can be said that the real key point of the series of events triggered by the rebellion of the Uchiha clan lies in Hyuga Aoki, the traitorous ninja of the Hyuga clan. It is precisely because Hyojin wanted to recover the giant Tenseigan in Hyuga Aoki's hands that these things happened. Realizing that the village has vaguely grasped the context of the matter, found the right direction, and began to secretly pay attention to the Hyuga clan, Hyojin also put away his previous relaxed attitude, thought about it carefully, and immediately said to the people in Naruto's office, well, I will seriously investigate the matter of Hyuga Aoki in the family. Seeing that Hyojin answered so solemnly, 3 generations nodded, and then asked casually, by the way, how did you unlock the seal of the Minato Gate and take away the dragon vein? As soon as 3 generations finished asking the question, everyone in the room looked at Hyojin quietly. One must know that the dragon vein is not something that can be taken at will, not to mention the seal of the dragon vein, imposed by 4 generations. Even without the seal, the dragon vein is very difficult to be taken away. The technical difficulties involved are extremely high, not to mention an individual. Even the 5 great ninja villages don't have full confidence in taking it away. That's why the dragon vein has always been in the possession of Lulan, otherwise the dragon vein would have been taken away long ago, and there would be no time for Hyojin to think about it. Therefore, the advisory elder group is very curious about how Hyojin, who only had the strength of a Tokubetsu Jonin, managed to do this. The 3 generations, on the other hand, as the longest-serving Naruto, as well as the direct disciple of the second Naruto, 3 generations can be said to be the person who knows the most about Mai, so he is very clear that the village once developed a project called Artificial Tailed Beast. Although this bold project was sealed due to technical problems, the scroll disappeared when Orochimaru defected. The relationship between Orochimaru and Hyojin is not a secret. During the Third Shinobi War, Hyojin was a subordinate of Orochimaru. The 3 generations even specially investigated Hyojin's situation during the Third Shinobi War and found that because of Orochimaru received a lot of preferential treatment and avoided many dangerous battlefields. Based on this alone, the 3 generations can conclude that the relationship between Hyojin and Orochimaru is not an ordinary superior and subordinate. The reason why they did not pay too much attention to this at the beginning was because Orochimaru is strong. Many Mai ninjas admire Orochimaru, and like Hyojin, they became Orochimaru's personal subordinate. Therefore, when he mixed in these people, Hyojin, who was only a Chunin at that time, did not stand out. Now that the Dragon Vein and the Artificial Tailed Beast project are connected, it has to attract the attention of the 3 generations. First update, it's the last day of October. Students who still have monthly votes, please don't forget to vote after today, your monthly votes will be wasted. Chapter 882. Being suddenly asked by the 3 generations, Hyojin was a little stunned. He thought that the matter of the dragon vein had already been resolved after the explanation of the 5 Kage meeting just now. He didn't expect that the 3 generations, or the group of elders, still wanted to investigate this matter. But soon he smiled and said casually, "I just broke the seal of the 4 generations. The one who really restrained the dragon vein was the Lulan Queen. The technique of storing and sealing the dragon vein came from the previous Miko of the country of demons, that is, Ziyuan's mother." Hyojin knew what the 3 generations were suspecting. Because the technique that he used to become the dragon vein's human pillar power came from the artificial tail beast scroll that Orochimaru provided him. And the artificial tail beast scroll that Orochimaru used was stolen from the village. So it was normal for the 3 generations to suspect something. But he wasn't worried. Whether it was the dragon vein or the possible collusion with Orochimaru, it was indeed a serious crime in the past. But now that he has become the 5th generation Naruto, it was nothing. Not to mention that the group of elders had no evidence in their hands. Even if they really had some evidence in their hands, in the current situation of the village, they may not dare to turn against Hyojin. Sure enough, after listening to the 3 generations, they just nodded and tacitly stopped this topic. You still need to go to the Uchiha clan in person. On the night 3 days ago, although the village did not define the Uchiha clan as a rebel, because Hyojin was not in the village these days, in order to prevent unexpected conflicts, Itachi and the others took the initiative to cut off the contact between the Uchiha clan and the village. All the Uchiha clansmen, including the injured in the hospital, returned to the Uchiha clan. Itachi's intention was to wait for Hyojin to come back, and then peacefully transition. But the Uchiha clan suddenly cut off the contact, which made the village a little flustered. They were worried that the Uchiha clan didn't completely give up and still wanted to rebel. "I'll go and see." Hyojin nodded. As soon as he settled the giant Tenseigan, he hurried back to the village to deal with the Uchiha clan, but he happened to encounter the 5 Kage meeting, so he was delayed. Sandaime looked at Suijin and said in a deep voice, "Kuroto, this time, the village will unconditionally cooperate with your plan to deal with the Uchiha clan, but the Uchiha clan needs to come up with an explanation, otherwise, the village will not be at ease, so the main purpose of this trip is to confirm the attitude of Uchiha Shursui and Uchiha Shinichi. The village needs to know whether they are still hostile towards the Uchiha clan." Hyojin gently nodded. "Well, I understand." This time, in dealing with the Uchiha clan, the village did cooperate with him in all aspects, so the request of 3 generations is not too much. Zhuan Shao-chun also stepped forward and said, "Hyojin, you have a good personal relationship with Jishui, so you have to appease him as much as possible and eliminate the contradiction between the Uchiha clan and the village, and you have to make good use of the incident of Amatsukami taking away Fuue's Manjikyu Sharingan, so that the Uchiha clan can turn all their resentment towards Amatsukami." Jiraiya came over and said to Hyojin with a worried look on his face, "After this fight, I can feel that Nagato is stronger than before, so we must win over Jishui and Shinichi. They are the precious combat power of the village, we can't afford any internal friction." Hyojin smiled and said, "Don't worry, the Uchiha clan will always be Mai's Uchiha clan." Hyojin learned that Nagato single-handedly cleared Mount Myaboku, and at that time he even had the impulse to personally go to Mount Myaboku and ask the Great Toad Sage if he expected such a disaster to befall Mount Myaboku. But it seems that the Great Toad Sage didn't expect it, otherwise, with the style of Mount Myaboku, they wouldn't have brought trouble to their own home. After saying that, Hyojin didn't delay any longer and left Naruto's office. After waiting for Hyojin to leave, Zhuan Shao-chun asked 3 generations, "Hyzen, do you suspect that he is still in contact with Orochimaru?" 3 generations took a puff of his pipe and said, "This time he took the initiative to expose the dragon vein to protect the village. It shows that he still cares about the village, not to mention that he is now Naruto. What Orochimaru can give him, The village can also give him, so it doesn't matter whether he is still in contact with Orochimaru or not. You're right. After a pause, Koharu continued, but this time we finally know his true background. I didn't expect him to have been hiding the trump card of Dragon Vein. I remember that when he was in the ninja school, he wasn't very good. In order to enhance the strength and influence of Naruto, 3 generations specially arranged for the Sannin to go to the ninja school to select disciples. Tsunade chose Mute, Orochimaru chose Red Bean, and because Jiraiya had already completed the target of accepting disciples, the task of accepting disciples fell to his disciple 4 generations, and 4 generations chose Kakashi, Obsidian, and Noara Rin. Tsunade, Orochimaru, and 4 generations didn't choose Hyojin. It can be seen that Hyojin was not very good at that time. Seeing that they talked about Orochimaru, Jiraiya took the opportunity to suggest, "Sensei, we can accept Uchiha and Shinichi again, why can't we try to accept Orochimaru again? If he is willing to return to the village, whether it is to balance the Uchiha clan or to deal with the Akatsuki organization, he can play a big role." Because Orochimaru didn't launch the My Collapse plan and kill his Shifu like in the original time and space, so in Jiraiya's view, the village can try to accept Orochimaru again. Tsunade also nodded and echoed, "It is indeed disgusting that he used the ninjas of the village for human experiments, but compared to the rebellion of the Uchiha clan and the Uchiha clan trying to ignite the flames of war throughout the village, he is not unforgivable, right? We can even tolerate the Uchiha clan, why can't we tolerate him? If the village can accept him, I am willing to personally monitor him to make sure that he doesn't make the same mistake again." 3 generations didn't say anything, he just silently smoked his pipe, and after a long time, he said, "Then let's try. After all, Orochimaru is his disciple. If he is really cruel, Orochimaru may not even have the chance to betray the village." When Orochimaru betrayed the village, 3 generations didn't allow 4 generations who mastered the Flying Thunder God Jutsu to chase after him. Instead, he sent someone to inform Jiraiya to chase after Orochimaru. From this arrangement alone, it can be seen that 3 generations still have expectations for Orochimaru. Jiraiya's face lit up with joy. "I will do it now." 3 generations waved his hand. "Don't interfere in this matter, let Kuroto do it." After saying this, 3 generations walked to the window. The Naruto rock, which is not far away, suddenly appeared in his eyes. He looked at the extraordinarily beautiful 5th generation Naruto rock, and then looked at the extremely rough 1st generation, 2nd generation, 4 generations, and his own Naruto rock and said with annoyance, "1st generation, 2nd generation's Naruto rock is a bit old, I think it should be renovated." Jiraiya said, "Teacher, the Naruto rock from the Watergate also looks a bit old." "Really? I think it's okay." After a pause, 3 generations said, "Then let's renovate them all together." It's the last half day of October. Students who still have monthly tickets, don't keep them, it will be a waste after 12 o'clock tonight. Also, thank you to the students who tipped yesterday, thank you everyone. Chapter 883. After leaving the Naruto building, Hyojin walked straight to the Uchiha clan. Swoosh swoosh, as soon as Hyojin arrived at the periphery of the Uchiha clan, 2 Dark Tribe members landed in front of Hyojin, Naruto-sama. Knowing that these Dark Tribe members were arranged by the village to monitor the Uchiha clan, Hyojin did not care too much. He just asked casually, "Has there been any abnormality in the Uchiha clan these days?" The leading Dark Tribe member shook his head. "No abnormalities have been found for the time being." "Very good." After a pause, Hyojin waved his hand. "Disperse, there is no need to monitor here." The 2 Dark Tribe members looked at each other with some hesitation in their eyes. Monitoring the Uchiha clan was an order personally issued by the 3 generations, so they were a little hesitant whether they should obey the order of Hyojin, the 5th generation Naruto, or continue to carry out the order of the 3 generations. Hyojin's face darkened when he saw this. Why, are my words not working? Seeing that Hyojin's face darkened, the 2 Dark Tribe members did not dare to disobey him anymore and quickly replied, "I'm sorry, we will lead the team to evacuate now." After that, the 2 Dark Tribe members bowed respectfully to Hyojin, and then called their companions who were lying in ambush around to evacuate together and remove the monitoring of the Uchiha clan. After sending away the Dark Tribe members who were distributed around the Uchiha clan, Hyojin did not stop and directly stepped into the Uchiha clan. It's the 5th generation. Is he alone? What does he want to do?" Seeing Hyojin, who was wearing the Naruto robe, walked into the clan alone, the men, women, and children of the Uchiha clan poked their heads out and watched vigilantly while whispering. These days, the Uchiha clan members were in a state of panic. Although the rebellion was covered up by the attack of Amatsukami, and the village did not pursue it for the time being, they were very worried that the village would punish them afterwards. In addition, the Manjikyu Sharingan of Fuyue was taken away by Amatsukami, and the 2 experts of the clan, Jishui and Shinichi, were also quietly defeated by Amatsukami. This series of defeats made the originally arrogant people of the Uchiha clan even more anxious. One must know that the 7 people who were killed were all elites of the Jonin clan. Among them, Uchiha Yusuke, Uchiha Kiwa, and Uchiha Hikaru were the elites of the Jonin clan. Therefore, although the loss of these 7 people is not a lot, in fact, the combat power of these 7 people is comparable to the total combat power of many shinobi clans. Even if Uchiha was the #1 wealthy family in Mai, such a loss was enough to hurt them deeply. However, Hyojin was alone when he entered the clan's territory. He didn't bring any guards with him, so he obviously didn't have any ill intentions. This made the Uchiha clansmen secretly heave a sigh of relief. Passing through the long street of the Uchiha clan, Hyojin arrived at the clan leader's mansion. Itachi, Jishui, and Shinichi hurriedly came up and greeted Hyojin, "Naruto-sama." Hyojin took the lead and walked into the mansion while asking, "How is the situation?" The 3 of them knew that Hyojin was asking about the situation of the Uchiha clan after the rebellion, so Jishui answered in a low voice, "The situation in the clan is relatively stable, and as you expected, the clan members have vented their anger on Amatsukami, and their resentment towards the village has decreased a lot." The guilty Uchiha clansmen thought that after all the experts in the clan were defeated by Amatsukami, the village would definitely hit them when they were down and wipe them out in one fell swoop. However, they didn't expect that not only did the village not make a move against the Uchiha clansmen, but they even helped Uchiha to treat the injured. They didn't mention anything about the rebellion at all, and they even helped to cover it up. This made the straightforward Uchiha clansmen feel ashamed. Hyojin nodded. This was the effect he wanted. The Uchiha clan's resentment actually stemmed from 2 reasons. First, the village treated them unfairly. As one of the founders of Mai, Naruto's faction suppressed the power of the Uchiha clan, which made them feel that they were being treated harshly. Second, the Uchiha clan's strength was too strong. This not only caused the estrangement between the Uchiha clansmen and the other clans in the village, but also greatly increased the Uchiha clansmen's expectations of their own power and status. This made the entire clan develop the idea that I am so strong, I should be in charge of the village. Hyojin's plan this time was to target these 2 reasons. First, he crushed the arrogance of the Uchiha clansmen through Amatsukami, making the Uchiha clansmen realize that they weren't as strong as they thought they were, and that they didn't have the qualifications to separate from the village. Then, he made the village not pursue the Uchiha clan's crime of rebellion, making the Uchiha clan owe the village a huge favor, thus eliminating the past grievances between the Uchiha clan and the village. And from the current situation, it seems that Hyojin's goal has been achieved. Stopping, Hyojin turned to Itachi and asked, "How is your father? Did he notice anything?" Itachi carefully sorted out his thoughts and immediately replied, "After thinking about it for these days, my father should have vaguely guessed something, but please rest assured, my father voluntarily handed over the Manjikyu Sharingan. He is no longer a threat to the village." At this time, Hyojin took out the pair of Byakugan that Hyuga Aoki had dug out and handed it to Itachi. "Take back your own pupil power." Itachi took the small nutrition tank, removed the transcription seal on the Byakugan, took back his Manjikyu Sharingan, and respectfully handed the small nutrition tank back to Hyojin. Putting away the Byakugan again, Hyojin said casually, "Take me to see your father, without my personal guarantee, I'm afraid he won't be at ease." Itachi nodded and quickly walked towards the backyard of the mansion with Hyojin. On the way, they happened to meet Sasuke, who was walking out of the mansion in a hurry. Seeing Hyojin and others, Sasuke saluted politely, then passed the crowd without saying a word and left in a hurry. Hyojin grinned and said, "It seems that Sasuke has suffered a lot." At this time, Sasuke looked much gloomier than before, and his body was wrapped in bandages of various sizes. Obviously, he had suffered some external injuries because of practicing too much. And judging from Sasuke's hurried appearance just now, and the bulging ninja bag around his waist, it can be seen that he should be in a hurry to go to the practice field to practice. Looking at the back of Sasuke leaving, Itachi sighed softly. The matter of father's Manjikyu Sharingan has indeed brought a lot of blow to him. "I have something to do at home today, so I'm a little late, I'm sorry. But don't worry, there is still the second chapter, I will write it even if I stay up all night." You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.